Complicated is code for messy. A lopsided grin plays on her lips. And if you keep hiding it, one day it's going to blow up. Like kaboom. I don't want to be there for the fallout. Thanks for your support, I tease, though the sincerity of her words sends a shiver down my spine. You're right, but there's loyalty at stake here too. This calling I feel to be with Elijah, it threatens to tear apart everything I've worked for. Before she can respond, the door swings open, and in walks my husband, Greg, clad in a suit, commanding as always, yet utterly unaware of the tide swirling beneath the surface. Morning, ladies. I trust we're discussing my favorite topic, me. Marisol stands sharply, feigning a seriousness I know she doesn't possess. Oh, Greg, we were just sharing our riveting thoughts on how your hairstyle has devolved into a middle management catastrophe. He rolls his eyes, but I spot the flicker of amusement on his lips. I'm surprised you notice anything other than that painting in the gallery, Marisol. Oh, please. That painting's got nothing on your hairstyle. It's just as confused as your fashion sense. Her laughter rings through the kitchen like a bell, easing a momentary tension. But my stomach clenches at how easy it is to joke with him over surface-level banter. The banter continues, but my heart is somewhere else. Thoughts of Elijah and the way he poured out his guarded heart catch me in a snare. Sweet, seductive vulnerability simmered beneath his bravado, an ember I cannot extinguish. When Greg finally leaves for another meeting, Marisol raises an eyebrow at me. You're gonna keep pretending you don't care about whatever's going on with Mr. Perfectly Messed Up Hair? Stop it, I snap, though her relentless nudges pierce my defenses. It's not that simple, and you know it. But it is simple, at least from the outside. My requests for freedom clash with the very idea of commitment I promised myself. The air thickens with that unshakable sense, the kind that tells me I'm consistently torn between obeying my obligations and chasing the intoxicating thrill Elijah represents. Sometimes it's not as much about the choices we make, but what we do afterward, she says gently, placing her hand on mine. Life evolves when you stop being afraid of it. I want to argue, but I can't find my voice. Perhaps she's right. Part of me craves to be bold, but the fear of what lies beyond the decision clutches tightly at my throat. As the day drags on and the sun descends, I find myself in the gallery, surrounded by vibrant canvases teeming with life. They showcase emotions I yearn to express, but feel imprisoned from painting. The world breathes with me, yet every airy whisper of brush against canvas sends reminders that I cannot have both, a life that's safe and one that's truly lived. Shawnna, a familiar voice calls. I spin around, and there stands Elijah, framed by the entrance, the last remnants of daylight illuminating his face. The shadows sculpting his features reveal a subtle, quiet power. You look like you could use a drink. Even at a distance, the electric connection sparks to life. I cross my arms, suspecting I might explode from 1,000 thoughts battling inside, the storm brewing. You shouldn't be here, Elijah. Shouldn't? He steps closer, adjusting a loose thread on his jacket, eyes keen but impossibly soft. Why would you say that? I'm just a guy popping in on a friend. You're not just a guy, I breathe out, careful to maintain a cool facade while my heart thrums like a drum, louder than the strident beats of the music echoing around us. You're trouble wrapped in charisma, and I can't afford trouble right now. A smirk dances on his lips, but falters as he studies my expression. You know that's not what this is about. You haven't signed up for a safe life, Shawnna. Not with me. Safe? What about loyalty? What about Greg? Are we really going to talk about him? Why not? Elijah leans against the wall, arms folding over his chest, a protective barrier that still radiates a potent charm. Because I can't stand seeing you with him, you deserve more than to balance your happiness on his shoulders. Despite my instincts to fight him, I feel the walls around my heart cracking. And what do you offer, Elijah? A one-way ticket to chaos? Chaos can sometimes be necessary, he states, stepping closer, the intensity in his voice steady and sincere. Life doesn't always fit neatly into boxes, Shawnna. Some of us are drawn to storms. I want to protest, to burst his romantic bubble of rebellion, but my composure shatters as he brushes past me. I feel every fiber of longing unravel as he closes that distance. Tell me the truth. Is there anything here that makes you happy just as you are? I don't know how to answer that, I admit, my resolve weakening. Then let me in, he says softly, his dark eyes penetrating my soul. Let me take you on a journey you've only dreamed of. My breath hitches. His presence feels electric against the dullness of my obligations. You're asking for too much. He reaches out, fingers grazing my arm, igniting signals of both danger and excitement. I'm not asking for an answer, just an opportunity. In a lapse of judgment, driven by desire, I lean forward. And when it all goes wrong, what's next? Then let's be wrong together. A chuckle escapes my lips, honed with disbelief and intrigue. How can you be so fearless? I'm tired of living in shadows, Shawnna. I pull back, recoiling from the truth he presents, yet my pulse races. And what if it's all too much? Then let's make sure we're together when it does crash. His vulnerability pierces through, raw and real. The air thickens as he leans between the worlds we've created, one of safety and one of reckless abandon. I can't seem to find my feet. Maybe we should talk somewhere more private, I whisper, unable to resist. Without hesitation, the connection between us consumes the room as we steal away into the empty archives of the gallery, where memories live among the echoes of art, hustled by time. As soon as the door shuts behind us, I am met with an intoxicating mix of adrenaline and urgency. Elijah closes the distance, and in the muted shadows of the cramped space, I find myself caught between every fiber of my being, screaming for liberation and the structured life waiting for me back home. Elijah's hands graze my waist, pulling me closer. This is how it starts, the spark of something powerful. I close my eyes, now wanting it, craving its embrace. The thrill overwhelms me as agony and exhilaration flood my veins. In this moment, he breathes, let the world outside fade. With that, our lips collide, melding passion with desperation, a symphony of movements spiraling into madness. Every touch ignites a chorus of warmth across my skin as his hands deepen their hold, each caress emboldened by the thrill of what lies beneath the surface. The gallery, cloaked in silence, becomes our secret archway to reckless yearning. Our breaths quicken, twisting together as I lose myself in the intoxicating friction of bodies battling against the constraints of reality. God, Shawnna, he murmurs against my ear, biting back restrained emotions, eager and urgent. You're so beautiful when you're unguarded. I pant against him, fingers entwining in his hair, a mixture of desperation and need. Daring to pull him even closer, I whimper, calling for more. And you make me want everything I can't have. The space between us withers away, making room for nothing but vulnerability and raw passion. In that stolen moment, enveloped in fervent kisses, everything else fades into insignificance. My commitments, my duties, the world I know, all jettisoned for the chaos he offers. Yet as the storm of emotions rages around us, I know there will come a reckoning, and I can't escape the question, what awaits me in those shadows once the last echo of our tempest dies? Let's leap, he breathes against my lips, urgency in his voice. I'm willing if you are. Just promise me we'll leap together. The weight of my response teeters on the tip of my tongue, trailing into the electricity of passion-heavy air. My heart swells, and as I embrace the moment with a reckless abandon, I discover that sometimes the leap into chaos feels more like a dance into freedom. And so we leap, tangled in shadows where nothing is as it seems, but every heartbeat lingers with promise. Chapter 19, A Message Received. The rain lashed at my apartment window, a relentless rhythm that mirrored the turmoil roiling within me. As I stared at the slick, glimmering streets of downtown New York, The world outside pulsed with a frenetic energy that felt both intoxicating and foreboding. I could almost taste the dampness in the air, a metallic bite that threaded through the scent of wet asphalt, and I shivered, though not entirely from the chill. It was a Thursday, and usually the energy of the city would buoy my spirits, offer a promise of escape. But today, I felt tethered, trapped by the uncertainty that compromised my every thought. I turned back to the living room, running my fingers over the sharp edges of my art books stacked haphazardly on the coffee table. Each title held a promise of beauty, of liberation, yet now they felt like reminders of a life that was slipping through my fingers. Shawnna. A voice penetrated my reverie. It was Kira, my boldest girlfriend, her laughter ringing through my apartment like a siren call. She pushed the door open, her vibrant presence washing over the dreary air. "Put those books down, and let's go. We need a night of mischief." Why was Kira always intent on dragging me into the chaos of her whirlwind life? I stifled my smile as she flopped onto the couch beside me, poking at my copies of Francis Bacon and Georgia O'Keeffe. "You know, if you'd just say yes, you wouldn't feel so out of sorts," she teased, her bright eyes reflecting mischief. "You know how I feel about crowds, Kira." "Boring. That's how you feel," she shot back, fidgeting dramatically. "And besides, spontaneity is the spice of life. You should try it. You might even like it." Her laughter tugged at something inside me, as if coaxing forth a green sprout yearning for sunlight. But just as I was about to chuckle in agreement, something caught my eye, an envelope resting casually on the table, stark white against the dim wood. I hadn't noticed it before, and dread unfurled in my stomach. Kira followed my gaze, her laughter dimming as confusion flickered over her features. "What's that?" "An envelope. I don't recognize it." My fingers trembled slightly as I reached for it, the lock seal glimmering ominously under the lamp. I'd played this game too many times. My pulse quickened as I tore it open and scanned its contents. "Stay away from him." The dismissal was blunt, a demand written on crisp paper, as if the universe were conspiring against my heart's reckless pursuit. I felt Kira lean closer, her breath catching as she read over my shoulder. "What in the world?" "It's nothing, except it wasn't. Doesn't look like nothing to me." She grabbed the note, her brows knitting together. "Who would send something like this?" "Someone who knows Elijah," I said, my voice a mere whisper, a ghost of what I wished to scream. "Elijah? That charmer you ran off with?" The accusation was almost playful, but an undercurrent of suspicion ran through her tone. "He didn't have any enemies we should know about?" My heart raced, the lingering thrill of our clandestine night slapping against the cold reality of what I was now facing. "Elijah is complicated. His every act brimmed with intrigue, and as exhilarating as our time felt, shadows trailed him like specters just out of sight." Kira studied me, perceptive as ever. "And yet you seem drawn to the chaos he brings. Does it ever bother you that I could lose everything by being with him?" I pressed, desperation rising. "Lose what? A life of luxury? A life that stifles you?" Her voice hardened, yet it was edged with kindness. "Elijah isn't the problem, Shawnna. You need to decide if you want this life of safety or if you want to risk it for something that sets you free. But don't go burning it all down on a whim, yeah?" Her words struck me in ways I couldn't articulate, tied in knots that were difficult to unravel. As I started to respond, the door burst open again, this time revealing Elijah, his presence immediately filling the room. "Hey, I'm back from the meeting," he declared, his charm dampened slightly by the slick of rain trailing down his coat. His eyes found mine instantly, disarming like the sunlight breaking through a storm cloud. "What are you two scheming tonight?" "Just the usual," Kira shot back, a smirk dancing on her lips. "Plotting world domination, perhaps?" Elijah chuckled, but his gaze faltered between us. "Is everything all right?" I glanced at Kira, suddenly apprehensive, and she mouthed the note, the urgency of my reality spilling like colors onto a palette. "It seems we have a mystery to solve," Kira announced, handing the note to Elijah without hesitation. He scanned it briefly, his brows furrowing, an uncharacteristic gravity falling over his handsome features. "Who sent this?" he asked, his voice low. "I don't know, but the implication—" I leaned forward, urgency cracking my tone. "The implication is serious." Elijah's eyes darkened, and I could see the wheels of his mind turning, calculating stakes I was desperate to understand. "You're not taking this seriously enough," he said, the protective edge in his voice marked with intensity. "This could involve people far beyond your comprehension." The joke in Kira's eyes dimmed as the conversation turned weighty, the air thickening with tension. "I need to know you're safe," he added, taking a step closer to me, his concern palpable. "You don't get it, do you? People like this do not take threats lightly." "But I can't just—" "Shawnna," he interrupted, voice steady yet laced with urgency, "this is why we need to stay away from each other. For your safety, even if it's the thing I want least in this world." "No," I shot back, indignation sparking in my veins. "How can you say that after everything? We can't let fear dictate our lives." "I won't let it." Kira's eyes darted between us, the tension almost electric in the air. "Hold up, hotheads. Can we talk about a plan before we jump into the abyss?" Elijah looked at Kira, then back at me, his expression softening but filled with an unyielding resolve. "Shawnna, I don't want anything to happen to you, but the threats are real." "Does that mean I should stay locked up in my pristine cage? Because I'm pretty sure I'd rather take my chances with you." My boldness surprised even me, but facing him now, I needed him to see how undeniable our connection felt, despite the chaos. "Hey, that's it," Kira interjected, a gleam lighting her eye. "If you really care about each other, do something about it. Just be careful. The universe is messy enough without you two making it messier." Elijah exhaled, rubbing a hand through his damp hair, a calculated smile returning once more. "I guess I couldn't stand to lose yet another beautiful thing in my life," he said, and Kira giggled at the dramatic flair. "Does that make me your beautiful thing?" I shot back, relief washing over me even amidst the turmoil. Elijah turned to me, his gaze turning stormy again. "Let's just say you mean more to me than simple dialogue. But you may need to put on something a little more, shall we say, adventurous tonight." I knew that my life was about to change. The thrill rushed through me like electricity. "Can I at least choose the adventures we follow?" "Now you sound like a true partner." Elijah grinned, leaning forward, tension blending with anticipation, until in walked my husband, Marcus, his frown deepening as he surveyed the scene. Me, Kiera, and Elijah, all aglow with laughter and chaos. "Shawnna," he said, voice cold as winter. "What's going on here?" "Great timing as usual," Kiera muttered under her breath. "Just catching up, darling." I forced a brightness into my tone, my heart hammering against my ribs, but I could see the anvil of mistrust forming in Marcus's eyes. Elijah's stance shifted, protective instinct slicing through the atmosphere. "I was just leaving," he said smoothly, the hushed authority in his voice laced with tension. Marcus's brow furrowed, the air saturated with the electricity of competition. "Didn't realize you had company, Shawnna." "Just friends, nothing more." I felt the heat rise in my veins as I tossed those words out as a lifebuoy. But I also knew they came out half-hearted, a mere illusion. Elijah didn't waste time looking back. He took a long stride toward the door, and for an instant, I felt a tether snapping, a thread fraying before I had the courage to pull it taut. "Elijah," I called after him, the urgency of my fear battling my insatiable desire. He paused and turned, a quiet yearning mingling with resolve. "We'll figure this out, Shawnna," he said, his voice steady, though the weight of it settled like lead in the room. With that, he disappeared out of my life for now, leaving the door ajar and a longing that clung to my very soul. As Marcus closed in on me, I felt the walls closing, the world narrowing to a point where everything questioned my choices. But deep down, I knew this was not the end, nor should it be. The tide was turning. In a voice tinged with defiance, I looked at Marcus and said, "This isn't over, not by a long shot." Chapter 20. Trust and Betrayal. The faint scent of fresh paint clung to my fingers as I dipped my brush into a palette of obsidian and crimson, the colors a vivid reflection of my turmoil. Under the skylight of my LA studio, sunlight danced on the canvas, a landscape of swirling shadows, waiting for the truth to break through. But today, that truth felt elusive, like a wisp of fog escaping grasping fingers. Shawnna, you're going all Van Gogh on us, Sarah joked, her voice chiming through the otherwise tranquil room. She flitted around the space like a butterfly, her presence an energizing distraction. Did you know he cut off his ear during a breakdown? Maybe try a cleanup job before you make a masterpiece. I chuckled, my heart not in it. You're not exactly helping, you know. You need to lighten up. She flopped onto a stool nearby, her dark curls bouncing with the effort. Maybe work on something that doesn't revolve around deep psychological angst. With a shaky breath, I pressed the brush down harder than intended, my frustrations leaving streaks across the canvas. Look around you. Everything feels heavy. These walls, my life, even Elijah. That guy is trouble. What were you thinking? I froze at her words, my stomach churning in response. The paintbrush halted mid-stroke. What do you mean? Come on, Shawnna, you can't tell me you haven't felt the tension. His charm is just a mask for something deeper. It's all about distraction. Distracting me from what? I interrupted, an edge creeping into my voice. Distraction from my perfect life, or from floundering to escape it? Sarah raised an eyebrow, her features softening. Look, I get it. Well, let's just say he's captivating. It's just, don't let that chemistry blind you. Your marriage is perfect? I shot back, the bitterness in my tone barely masked. No one's perfect. Not us, not them, especially not Elijah. Exactly, she pressed, leaning into the conversation like a co-conspirator. If your perfect life was really perfect, you wouldn't be painting shadows and dreaming of an escape plan. Just because I have more to offer than an art gala with forced laughter doesn't mean I have to… Shawnna. Her voice lowered, laced with empathy. What are you really so afraid of? Before I could dive deeper into the maze of my thoughts, the sound of my phone echoed through the studio. The screen flashed with an unknown number, but against my better judgment, I answered. Hello? The voice on the other end was clipped, businesslike. Miss Baptiste, we need to speak. It's about Elijah Carter. The air in the room felt charged, like the moments before a summer storm. I swallowed hard. What about Elijah? I asked, my voice steadier than I felt. It's a matter of urgency. Meet me at the junction of 5th and Main in 1 hour, or I'll have to take alternate measures. Stay away from him until you're in the clear. My mind whirled. Wait, who is this? The line clicked dead. Sarah looked at me, concern layering her features. What was that about? I don't know. I felt as if I'd been hit by a freight train, my heart racing. I need to find out what's going on. I'll be back. Wait, she called as I grabbed my bag. Just be careful, Shawnna. Careful's not really my thing right now. I'll text you. As I stepped into the heat of the afternoon sun, I resisted the urge to run back inside, shut myself off, and drown in the safety of my tangles of paint. Instead, I marched down the road, palms slightly clammy. Fueled by anxiety and adrenaline, each step a rebellion against the constraints of my life. At 5th and Main, I stood on the corner, a kaleidoscope of humanity swirling around me. Street vendors hawking their trades, couples bickering over directions, children laughing, unaware of shadows lurking beneath the obvious. It reminded me too much of the art of life, where nothing was ever quite what it appeared. The figure emerged from an alleyway, a sharp-suited man, his eyes evaluating me with cool precision. Miss Baptiste? I nodded, tightening my grip on the strap of my bag. What do you want? Your boyfriend, he said, glancing sideways as though expecting another presence. He's in over his head, and so are you. What an unexpected combination of honesty and rudeness, I replied, sarcasm unwittingly slicing through my nerves. Listen, he's being watched. I suggest you keep your distance. Watched? By who? Before he could answer, I swallowed my pride and stepped closer, my irrational instincts driving me. If you think I'm going to sit back while someone threatens him, you have another thing coming. The man arched an eyebrow, his expression unreadable. This isn't a game, Ms. Baptiste. Elijah's mixed up in something far bigger than a casual fling. Please pick up, I whispered into the silence of the street, nails gnawing into my palms. Would I risk everything for someone whose life I didn't truly understand? Elijah, please. Shawnna. His voice boomed through the speaker, a mix of concern and intensity. I was just about to reach out. Are you okay? Not really. Where are you? I'm on my way home. I need to see you. Can you make sure you aren't followed? Why? What happened? My stomach twisted as I considered the depths of what I had just learned, the shadows growing darker on edges I hadn't even seen before. We need to meet. There's something urgent. Stay put. I'm almost there. The call ended, leaving me brimming with anticipation mixed with dread. Seeing Elijah was like inviting an electric storm, both exhilarating and terrifying. I hesitated for a moment, willing myself to stay grounded amidst the chaos swirling around my heart. I found my way back to the studio, my pulse quickening in time with every muscle I couldn't suppress, the hunger for clarity mingling dangerously with the desire surging inside me. As I stepped inside, Sarah gave me an expectant look. He's coming back? Soon, I confirmed, shaking off the edges of uncertainty. We need to talk. About everything. Before I could carry the weight of all my findings, the door swung open, and there he was, Elijah, standing on the threshold, looking ruggedly disheveled, yet captivatingly fierce. The air thickened with unspoken tension, a battle between trust and betrayal simmering just below the surface. Shawnna. His voice was low, heavy with command, as he slid closer. The last thing I want is for you to worry, but I need you to listen. Then why didn't you tell me? I stepped back, hurt, leaking into the atmosphere. My heart raced, spinning out of control, even as I recognized the familiar grip of his intensity. Are you serious? He shot back, eyebrows knitting together. I didn't tell you because I didn't want to pull you into this chaos. I didn't want you to become a target because of me. I'm already in it, Elijah. You're not the only one who gets to make choices around here. He took a step forward, invading my space, his breath mingling with mine, a heady mixture of familiarity and frustration. Then tell me you're okay. I don't know if I am. I exhaled sharply, my eyes searching his fiercely, desperate for honesty. What if I become part of your turmoil? What if this truly isn't just a game? Look, I know I haven't been honest. I thought I was protecting you. Protecting me from what? From my mess. From others who might want to hurt you because of me. His gaze locked onto mine, a storm reflecting in his dark eyes. Because I didn't want you to think that the shine of my life could dim the fierceness of yours. In him, I found a paradox of power and vulnerability, a tether I couldn't ignore, and yet with the consequences weighing down heavily on me, I knew this wasn't just an escape from my marriage. The walls of my carefully curated life felt primed to shatter around us as I made my choice. I choose to fight beside you, I declared, my voice steadying, together for whatever comes next. Elijah's jaw tightened, a flicker of appreciation igniting the depths of those dark, enigmatic eyes. Then we face it head-on. Just be prepared. I can't protect you from everything. I stepped closer, closing the distance between fear and the undeniable chemistry that flowed between us like wildfire, pulsing, crackling, the very essence of living daringly amidst the shadows. Maybe I don't want you to protect me from everything, I whispered, the intimacy of my words bringing a palpable hush over the turbulent air. As he dipped his head slightly, our breaths mingling within inches of each other, I was struck with the fierce determination pounding in my chest. Say it again, he urged, the depths of his voice vibrating against the uncertainty. Maybe I don't need to fear the fire. Maybe I want the chaos of being with you, hotter, deeper than anything I've known. And it was there, in the space of a shared sentiment and a rivaling tumult, Lips crashed against each other in a fevered embrace, igniting everything else around us. With each caress, each whispered confession between gasps of breath, we scrambled toward the truth that couldn't be ignored. Between chaos and exquisite desire, ours was a burning tandem, come what may. In that moment I knew, for every layer of beauty and turmoil I chose, I could also choose this, a future blazing ahead, cloaked with the raw power of passion and trust that refused to dim, despite the threats looming outside our unwieldy thrill. Together, he murmured against my lips, that sleek strength pressing against me, assuring against the heart of uncertainty. Always. Chapter 21, Danger Lurking. The sprawling penthouse felt claustrophobic, the walls closing in on me as I sank into the plush armchair, fingers drumming on the sepia-toned fabric. Outside, the city was alive, horns blaring, laughter floating up from bars along the street, children playing in the park with carefree abandon. Inside, however, an unsettling quiet settled like a blanket over my mind, the air thick with unspoken words and looming shadows. A flicker of unease skittered down my spine. Jack, my husband, had left earlier with an unusually pensive look in his eyes, a far cry from his typical arrogance. I could still hear the echo of our conversation from just hours before, where his dismissive tone had sent waves of irritation bubbling beneath my skin. You need to lighten up, Shawnna. This is important for my career. Just accept it, he had said, flinging his hands up in a theatrical gesture, his impatience mingling with resentment. Important for your career or for you to feel powerful, I retorted, the words slicing through the stale air between us. He had narrowed his eyes, but I stood my ground. I won't be a mere accessory to your ambitions. As the memories played out in my mind, I remembered the way the sunlight had caught the tips of his hair, transforming him momentarily into someone I hardly recognized. The conversation had been laced with a tension that felt both electric and suffocating. I had felt like a caged bird, fluttering against bars made of gold. Suddenly, the shrill ring of my phone shattered the silence. I lunged for it, fingers trembling. The caller ID lit up with Elijah's name. My heart raced, a familiar thrill that jostled me from the melancholy pensiveness I had been drowning in. Shawnna, he breathed, his voice wrapping around me like a heated embrace. We need to see each other. Now. I frowned, scanning the room as if the answer would materialize from the air. Is everything okay? Not even close. I'll explain when I see you. Just trust me. The urgency in his voice set my pulse racing. Meet me at the gallery in 30. I hung up, heart thundering. The gallery was my sanctuary, but lately it had felt like a battleground of both beauty and chaos, almost a mirror of my own life. Once I'd filled it with the vibrant brushstrokes of emerging artists, now it felt constricted, as if every canvas held a secret waiting to spill out. When I arrived, the lights cast a soft glow through the expansive space, illuminating pieces that held stories of loss, love, and liberation. But tonight, the artwork seemed almost mocking against the backdrop of my anxiety. I walked through the halls, each step echoing in the silent dimness, until I found Elijah, leaning against the wall, his brow furrowed with concern, the way it always was when he was deep in thought. Hey, I offered weakly as I approached him. He straightened, eyes scanning my face. You look like you've seen a ghost. More like a particularly persistent nightmare. I smiled, but the corners of my mouth trembled. What's wrong? He looked over his shoulder before gesturing me closer. I've been noticing some strange behavior around you lately. Someone seems to be watching. Watching? You mean, like, lurking in the shadows? I chuckled lightheartedly, trying to mask the dread pooling in my stomach. This isn't a joke, Shawnna, he replied, the warmth in his expression evaporating. I've seen cars following you after your gallery shows, and strangers loitering nearby when you leave your office. It's not your imagination. My laughter died, replaced by a churn of panic. What? Are you serious? Yes, I've tried to handle it without alarming you, but I'm not comfortable with how close this is getting. His protectiveness set off a spark within me, making me feel both cherished and constrained. Are you sure it's not just paranoia? Yet my voice trembled, betraying my inner turmoil. Shawnna, please. The urgency in his eyes anchored his words. I'm serious. I'd be doing this for anyone I cared about, but for you, it's personal. What do you mean? You're not saying you've done something dangerous? I took a breath, trying to wrestle the fear grasping at my throat. I've been looking into a few things, he admitted, albeit reluctantly. I'd do anything to protect you. But whatever they want, this isn't about you. It's about me. Suddenly my heart swelled at his unmistakable concern, his protectiveness igniting a fire within me. I didn't want to feel weak or submissive, and yet I found immense comfort in his intensity. Then we face it together, I asserted, standing my ground. Whatever it is, we'll deal with it. I stepped closer, determination edging my voice with heat. Elijah's expression softened, yet his gaze remained serious. It's not just about us. There are layers to this risk, Shawnna. In life, isn't everything layered? I shot back, my heart racing. We're not merely defined by our situations. We grow, we evolve. His lips corked upward, but the worry lurked behind his charm. You should know when to back down. Maybe I enjoy a good challenge, or maybe I'm tired of hiding. My resolve was firm, even as the weight of danger loomed over us. He broke eye contact, staring at the floor for a moment, frustration flickering across his features. Shawnna, I won't let anything happen to you, but we have to keep our heads. The last thing I want is for you to feel vulnerable. Without thinking, I reached out, cupping his cheeks softly, coaxing him to look at me. His skin was warm, the texture sending shivers lining my arms. It's you I trust, not the shadows or the lurking figures, I murmured, my breath mingling with his. Elijah's hands found my waist, pulling me closer. Every flicker of anxiety melted beneath our shared tension, leaving only the heat of our agitated breaths. If you're going to fight for this, you've got to be ready for the consequences, he warned, the weight of his sincerity palpable. I'm ready, I whispered, daring to meet his gaze, my heart thrumming in my chest. And what about the consequences of us? He asked, voice deepening, body leaning closer. Isn't that why we're standing here? My heart pounded, every inch between us collapsing into an electrifying beat. With that, he crashed his lips against mine, the urgency of his kiss igniting every nerve in my body. I melted into him, the world outside fading, leaving only the heated connection we shared. Let's take it slow, I gasped between breaths, but his passion matched every one of my rising desires. Too late for that. He pressed me against the wall, strong and protective, the art cleverly framing us as the colors tumbled around in confident strokes. This, the feeling of being swept away, felt exhilarating, but the thrill that crackled in the air was laced with a tension that had more weight than we could hold. With each kiss, I pulled him closer, and as our bodies entwined, I could feel the boundaries we were hurtling towards, each beat of our hearts marking time against the chaos lurking outside. Can you hear it? I murmured, thighs entwined around his hips as I held onto him like a lifeline. He paused momentarily, their breaths mingling, foreheads touching. Hear what? The danger, the thrill, the chaos, I gasped, the heat simmering between us, impossible to ignore. Isn't it intoxicating? And with that, our bodies fell into a heated rhythm, two souls navigating tumultuous currents. Our fingers became intertwined, flesh on flesh, breath against breath, heating up with chemicals that no icy reality could freeze. Every kiss was a rebellion against the world we knew. Every touch, an exploration of uncharted territory. Danger lurked on the edges, taunting us, but together we built our own paradise, fiercely and unabashedly, lost in the depths of desire and fueled by a mutual yearning to redefine fate itself. Perhaps love could conquer all. Chapter 22, The Heart's Call. The cool air wrapped around me like a silk scarf, gentle yet unyielding. I leaned against the polished marble of my apartment's balcony, A city below, pulsating with a life I felt tethered to, yet entirely separate from. The sun dipped low, casting gold and crimson streaks across the skyline, but my thoughts didn't dance to the rhythm of the evening light. Instead, they wrestled with the looming shadows that threatened to entrap me again. I clenched my jaw, reminding myself that I was more than a curator in a gilded cage. I was Shawnna Baptiste, and I had choices. The hiss of Elijah's voice echoed in my mind, his words laced with a mixture of bravado and reassurance. Just moments before, he'd pulled me into him, his palm warm at the small of my back, whispering secrets of intention and desire that sent shivers down my spine. "Are you ready to let go of your perfect life?" he had asked, his gaze piercing through the layers I hid behind, with an intensity that made my heart race. "Ready or desperate?" I had shot back, half teasing, but the truth sat heavy in my stomach. I loved my job, the accolades, the prestige, but there was an uncharted territory I longed to explore with him, the thrill of something wild, something real. "You can trust me, Shawnna," he had insisted, a clench in his jaw betraying his composure. I had seen that expression before, a telltale sign of the battle eroding inside him, of secrets he wasn't ready to share. The ding of my phone jolted me from my thoughts. I reached for it absent-mindedly, my heart leaping as I saw Elijah's name flash across the screen. Just then, an unexpected knock echoed across the apartment. "Coming," I called, anticipation fluttering. When I opened the door, I was met not only with Elijah, but also with the whirlwind that was Talia, my sharp-tongued, loyal friend. "I don't know how you managed to make this place feel both luxurious and boring," she declared, breezing past me and into the apartment. Her vibrant floral dress swirling around her legs, like color splattered on a canvas. "You need to live a little, Shawnna." Elijah followed, a teasing smirk playing on his lips as he leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. The innocent angles of light danced over his rugged face, teasing a sense of danger that fueled the air between us. I flipped back to Talia, trying to focus on her words as she rummaged through my fridge. "Barely had a home-cooked meal in ages. All you do is work, work, work." She placed a finger to her temple, mimicking my recent tendencies. "Let this one go. Spin into the exciting chaos." "Chaos is exactly what I'm trying to avoid," I countered, shooting a glance at Elijah. But he merely raised an eyebrow, one corner of his mouth lifting, as if he heard something different behind my words. "Chaos? Honey, that's all I see whenever you're around him." She waved her hand back toward Elijah, and our eyes met for a moment, bursting with a mix of promise and unspoken challenges. "What do you mean?" I spun back to Talia, feigning innocence, but I felt the heat rise in my cheeks. "There's nothing chaotic about—" "Please," Talia scoffed, wrinkling her nose. "You've got that spark between you two. I can almost feel it in the air." Elijah quietly observed from behind, his presence magnifying the tension. I turned away to glance at my freshly polished mantle, adorned with books of modern art, but my heart raced as I caught a glimpse of him in the reflection. "Yeah, well, sparks can catch fire," I muttered under my breath, smoothing down the front of my blouse, suddenly anxious under Talia's unwavering gaze. "What's the matter?" Elijah stepped forward, catching me off guard. "Scared we might burn the place down?" "More like scared you might drag me into the flames." My voice caught in my throat, and I could feel Talia's eyes darting between us, her ears pricked for juicy gossip. "Let it happen," Talia chimed, nodding vigorously. "Make spectacular disasters together. You'll regret it if you don't." I laughed, but the sound felt foreign against the backdrop of undeniable chemistry swirling in the room. "And now I'm the mad scientist in this scenario?" "Mad and brilliant. Everyone gets to be something," she quipped. "Honestly, Talia, there's so much more at stake here than just some romance novel antics." I crossed my arms, the tightness in my chest throbbing louder than ever. "I won't be reckless. It's not just my heart, but everything I built." "Elijah wouldn't take that from you," Talia scoffed, casting a playful glance in his direction. You should let him take you Filipino food tonight, then paint a mural in your living room, or something frivolous. Flirt till the cows come home. Frivolous? I echoed, the word hanging in the air as if daring to dissolve the tension. You make it sound so easy. Elijah stepped in closer, the warmth radiating from his body pulling at the edges of my resolve. You keep saying that, but trouble is something you already flirt with every day. You just don't know it yet. Oh, and you do? I retorted, half mocking, half serious. Spill it, Elijah. What are you so afraid of? Nothing and everything, he replied, the vulnerability spiking through his steady facade. A flicker of the darkness that lingered behind his charming smile. You say you want to know me, but do you really? Maybe I'm just playing safe? Hiding? He moved even closer, and Talia disappeared in a flurry of iced coffee and laughter as she shuffled out. Sensing the rising tension and the stinging honesty that crackled between us, I swallowed, caught in his stormy eyes. And just like that, the chaos suddenly felt seductive. You don't even know what safe means in my world, I replied, the conviction in my voice wavering. No, he murmured, leaning in and causing my heart to thrum. What I seek is freedom, and I see it in your eyes. You're tired of this pretty cage. Who says this is pretty? I snapped, though my fingers brushed against the fabric of his blazer, lingering too long. Beauty is a mask. It hides truths that crave to be set free. The moments stretched, raw and quaking, until his intent gaze flourished into a smirk. Bet I can assist with that. Assist, huh? I chuckled through my flutter of nerves. I was thinking of a more daring exit strategy. His laughter wrapped around the space between us. Leave the perfect life? Go rogue with me? That's a plan I can get behind. Before I could respond, I felt myself leaning into him. Everything shifted. The world outside faded into nothingness as his warmth enveloped me. Without thinking, I bridged that precarious gap and pressed my lips hard against his, surrendering to the taste of reckless abandon. His arms encircled me, drawing me closer, igniting something deep. But just before I could drown in the intoxicating chemistry, the reality of our precarious existence crashed back into my thoughts. What are we doing, Elijah? I breathed between kisses, my head spinning. This isn't just chance. He hesitated, the air thick with unspoken truths. It is what you want, isn't it? It's what I want, I confessed, nibbling my lip. But I need to know you're not dragging me into more trouble than I already have. His grip on me tightened, as if he were preparing to pull me from the brink. Trust me, Shawnna. Really. I'm not here to destroy. I'm here to build with you, he murmured against my ear, the warmth of his breath igniting my senses. Then let me see this world you're willing to share. With a swift motion, he swept me into his arms, laughter bubbling between us, chaotic and beautiful. It felt both like a lullaby and a war cry as I anchored my fingers in the fabric of his shirt. Elijah's lips found my jawline, trailing soft touches to my collarbone. How about an adventure? His voice vibrated through me, sending shivers of anticipation all the way down to my toes. My body trembled in response as he pulled back, holding my gaze steady. I promise it will be unlike anything you've ever experienced. This is an adventure. This is insanity. Exactly, he laughed, that boldness lighting a fire deep within me, igniting my spirit even amid the lurking shadows. Let's burn together then. How does that sound? Adventure danced on my lips, defiantly overwhelming the caution knotted in my stomach. Perhaps this bold leap into uncertainty was what we needed. I watched him, admiring the audacity in his eyes, and slowly relented, my own cheeky smile spilling forth. Yes. He surged forward, his mouth colliding with mine, chased by the warmth of our escalating passion. My fingers tangled in his hair as he deepened the kiss, and within that electric embrace, I felt every shadow I carried start to melt away. It was in that moment I knew I would no longer be captive to hesitation. Each lingering touch, piercing remark, and heated look ignited something profound within me, a call of the heart. And if our game was to unravel the dark secrets lingering beyond the horizon, then we would face them together, prepared for whatever chaos dared confront us. So let the wild winds howl, let the fires burn. I was ready for the dance. Together then, I whispered, my voice almost pleading. Together, he echoed, the weight of the promise grounding us as I prepared to embrace the unknown. And as we surrendered to passion, I felt the hard call, an unyielding invitation to free my soul and let the world watch in awe. It was ours, dangerous yet wondrous, and we were just getting started. Chapter 23. Colliding Paths. The bell above the cafe door jingled softly, a delicate invitation to the outside world. But for me, it was the sound of impending calamity. My fingers gripped the edge of the table, the cool steel grounding me against the whirl of chaos that surrounded my mind. I was just here to collect my thoughts, trapped by the glitter of my own ambitions and aspirations. But all it took was a single glance across the misty room to set my heart racing and my breath uneven. Elijah was somewhere in the cafe, or maybe he wasn't. I had only caught a glimpse of him through the crowd. It was a crowded Saturday morning. The cafe buzzed with echoes of laughter and the comforting hiss of the espresso machine. But instead of the familiar warmth of community, dread pooled in my stomach. Shawnna, is that you staring into the abyss again? My friend Maya's voice pulled me back into focus as she slid into the seat across from mine, her dark curls bouncing with energy. You know it's bad for your skin, right? She smiled playfully, one elbow propped on the table, eyes sparkling like sunlight on water. Sunny coming from someone whose inner monologue is just puns, I replied, narrowing my eyes at her before letting a laugh escape. Hey, I'll have you know my puns are a lifeline in times of stress, she teased, her tone filtering through my anxious thoughts like the aroma of fresh coffee. My gaze flicked back towards the entrance just as the door swung open, and in he walked. Elijah Carter, an accidental tempest in my meticulously planned life. He moved with that magnetic, easy confidence, weaving between tables, oblivious to the gravity he carried with him. The cafe felt electric, and every fluctuation in the air sent my heart into disarray. Rather than approach him, I found myself paralyzed, my coffee cup teetering dangerously close to the edge of the table. Maya followed my gaze, her smile fading into something that bordered on nervous. Are you? Now isn't the time, I interrupted, inhaling sharply and straightening my spine. I need to play it cool. Elijah caught sight of me then, the moments stretching between us like a tightly drawn bow. His eyes locked onto mine, dark and compelling, and I felt the world around us fade into nothing. I clenched my jaw, fighting against the pull, against the yearning that ignited in my chest. Let him come to you, Maya nudged, but I could hardly hear her. For him, a call is a siren, a pull that slices through layers of pretense. Maybe it was foolish, the way my heart raced like it was escaping a cage. But I felt alive in ways I hadn't in ages. I wanted this, however fraught with peril. Hey, I thought you were going to be gone all weekend. Elijah's voice rang out across the cafe, teasing yet perfectly pitched. He approached our table, the air thickening with a palpable tension. Change of plans, I said, my voice steady, but I could feel the warmth pooling in my cheeks. Thank goodness for last-minute cancellations, he quipped, leaning against the back of my chair, a bold gesture that sent shockwaves of awareness down my spine. Maya glanced between us, barely hiding her amusement. I can vacate if you need some privacy, she winked, but I waved her off. No, stay, please, I almost pleaded, trying to deflect the tension swirling thick around Elijah and me. Are you, still in that marriage of convenience? He asked, his smile shifting. There was something deliberately probing in his eyes, an unwavering intent that unearthed my vulnerability. It's complicated, but you know that, I shot back, irritation brewing only slightly, because I understood his concern, and I felt the weight of it. Everything's complicated at the moment. His gaze deepened, mirroring my own internal struggles. Life has a funny way of untying knots when you least expect it. I'm learning that. It was flirting, undeniable but riddled with subtext. My heart chimed in agreement, even as my reason screamed for caution. So what if we got out of here? Elijah suggested, with a spark of mischief, his crooked smile igniting the room around us. Right now? I asked, both surprised and thrilled by the suggestion. Why not? There's an art installation at the downtown gallery I think you'd love. You can tell everyone how they missed the chance to see the best pieces before they were gone. His smooth tone turned magnetic, and all the doubts I had fluttered away into oblivion, replaced by the exhilarating sense of adventure. Yes, let's do it, I exclaimed without thinking. Maya raised her eyebrows, her half-expected smile faltering. As long as you both don't end up locked in a passionate collision on the gallery floor, keep it to a mild fire, okay? I chuckled, the tension dissolving into playful banter as we left the cafe, the echoes of rich laughter trailing behind us. The streets outside felt bright and expansive, the morning sun filtering through the tree branches overhead. I looked to my side and saw Elijah glancing at me, as if checking to ensure I was still with him. Our pace quickened, our steps in sync as I started to shed the weight of my usual reservations. I've always had an eye for beauty, Elijah said, the wind ruffling his hair. Beauty in art and beauty in people, you fit both criteria. I chuckled nervously, but couldn't ignore the heat rising to my cheeks. You've been practicing your lines, haven't you? Only by watching you. He shot back, a knowing smile flitting on his lips. Flattery will get you everywhere, you know, I teased, gently nudging his shoulder as we walked. And you, my queen, deserve it all. The way his eyes glittered as he said that, the vulnerability woven through his charm, it moved something inside me. The bustling street morphed into an art gallery, buzzing with energy. Displays of color and creativity surrounded me, but all I could focus on was his lingering gaze as we stepped through the entrance. The familiar hum of my curator's spirit ignited. My passion bubbled under the surface, but was challenged by the exquisite tension crackle between us. Let me show you something. His voice was dipped in promise, and before I could respond, he gently took my hand, an act full of both lightness and gravity. The tiles clicked softly beneath our feet, rich reds and golden hues splashed across the walls. Almost instinctively, I led him toward a painting that captured the light so perfectly it felt like a meditation. Isn't it remarkable? I breathed, gesturing to the brushstrokes swirling like a gust of wind captured in time. Elijah took a step closer, his arm brushing against mine. You're remarkable. As my breath hitched, he shifted, adjusting the angle of my hand so his fingertips grazed my wrist, the touch both a caress and a tether. But you know what's truly compelling? I dared to ask, my heart racing. What? His gaze flickered downwards, drinking me in like a fine vintage. This moment, here, right now. He leaned in and whispered, and what else? In this world of chaos, we've accidentally stumbled into something special. I dared to hold his gaze, heart racing against the sushi friction of reality. Oh, really? He leaned even closer, our faces almost touching. The intensity swirling in his emerald eyes demanded my attention. Does it feel like a collision of paths? The electric comfort between our bodies drew me in like a moth to flame. Do you dare me to take that leap? I asked, feeling the spark between us ignite savagely with every word. Do I dare you? His lips curled, leaning in ever so slightly. Oh, let's just say I would love to see what you've got, what we've got. In a sudden burst of recklessness, I whispered, let's disrupt the art of this moment entirely then. As if ignited by an unseen tether, Elijah's face inched closer, no more than a breath apart. Then let's make a masterpiece. The rush of it swept me off my feet as our lips collided. It was not just desire, it was an exploration, a wild, untamed brush of exploration that set every nerve ending alight like quicksilver. I lost myself in the taste of him, the rough edges of reality dulled by the fervor of uncharted territory. As his hand slid to rest at the small of my back, pulling me into him, my world tilted, and everything else faded. We became a collection of inching gasps and merging sighs, heavy with trust and the electric thrill of something sacred, yet scandalous. The sounds of the gallery faded into white noise as we lost ourselves in this beautiful chaos. Art didn't only hang on walls, it pulsed between us in this collision of paths, an intricate blend of soul and hunger. Shouts and laughter erupted around us, but none of it reached my ears. Only the wild cadence of our hearts resounded, shaking off the weight of everything else, igniting a passion unraveled in layers of sharpness and sweetness. When we finally pulled apart, both breathless and slightly dazed, Elijah searched my eyes, grounding me in this moment. "So now what?" he breathed, his grin leaving me dizzy. "How about we keep colliding?" I asked breathlessly, laughing softly as the air around us hummed with a new thrill, the thrill of inevitable complications, reckless abandon, and the magnificent messiness of love, unfolding like a canvas stretched taut against the canvas of our lives. Elijah smiled, and the world around us felt anew, collaborative in its unpredictable artistry. "I'm all in, Shawnna." As we stepped further into the gallery, hands still entwined, I recognized that the path ahead would be riddled with uncertainty. But for the first time in a long time, I was ready to navigate the unpredictability of it all. "Let's create something wild then," I said, more alive than I'd felt in ages. "Let's." He squeezed my hand tighter, our laughter mingling with the echoes of the past, a past that was now just a shadow on the wall behind us. Chapter 24. Running Out of Time. The smell of fresh basil mingled with the earthy aroma of roasted tomatoes, filling the air of my small kitchen. I was supposed to be preparing dinner for Marcus, whipping up a celebratory meal to mark our anniversary. Yet as I diced the right produce, the rhythmic thud of my knife against the cutting board felt more like a countdown, a reminder that time was slipping through my fingers like grains of sand. "Shawnna, baby, have you seen my cufflinks?" Marcus called from the other room, his voice bright and carefree, completely unaware that my heart felt like a caged bird trapped under a weight too heavy to lift. "Check the top drawer," I replied, purposefully forcing cheerfulness into my tone. The last thing I needed was for him to sense that I was losing my grip. Marcus clanked around in our bedroom, oblivious, while I squared my shoulders, breathing in the aromatic chaos of my life. The dinner prep was an exercise in normalcy, an anchor in a world that felt increasingly adrift. I had promised myself that tonight I'd stay grounded. Yet thoughts of Elijah flickered like wildfire in the recesses of my mind. How did I find myself here? I pushed the thought aside, focusing on the vibrant colors of the vegetables. In the chaos of my heart, they seemed impossibly bright, saturated with life, yet I felt caught in shadow. With every slice, I thought of Elijah's warm laughter and the way his eyes sparkled with mischief. My skin tingled with the memory of his touch, a roller coaster of revelations that shook my neatly curated world to its very foundations. A fleeting image of Elijah rushed back to me. That night under the city skyline, our shared breaths mingling in the chill of the evening air, unspooling the threads of my carefully woven existence. Shaking my head, I tried to banish the thought of him, of the fervent energy that vibrated between us, igniting a yearning that had begun to feel like an addiction. "Hey, you okay? You look a little distant." I glanced up to find Marcus leaning against the archway, his relaxed demeanor scrutinizing, yet unaware of the maelstrom brewing within me. He stepped closer, a hint of concern in his gaze. "I'm fine, really, just lost in thought," I replied, waving my knife in the air like a wand, trying to invoke a semblance of magic. "Dinner will be ready soon." "Great, because I am starving." His grin was charmingly wide, and for an instant I felt an illogical tug of guilt threading through my stomach. I shouldn't have been thinking of Elijah, shouldn't have let him even trespass in my thoughts when my husband's joyful energy offered stability. All right, what are we drinking tonight? He called over his shoulder, bustling back into the adjacent room. My heart quickened. I had no plan to reveal the collection of vintage wines I'd kept stashed away. But for a moment, the idea of sharing something intimate felt like stepping into light from my shadowed corner. How about that bottle of rosé? Excellent choice. You know it really is my favorite. Just then, my phone buzzed on the counter. The screen flashed Elijah's name, and I felt the pulse in my veins quicken. The world froze, momentarily paralyzed, as I realized that every second spent reading that message could unravel the carefully constructed montage of my life. Just a moment, I called, silencing the urge to snatch my phone. My fingers trembled as I read his message. Can we meet? I inhaled sharply. The mere suggestion stoked the fire inside. Something about the way he asked made me feel alive in a way that had eluded me for far too long. Shawnna, Marcus's voice cut through my thoughts. Everything good? Fine. Just admiring my masterpiece here, I replied, pocketing the phone too quickly, the weight of my secrets rumbling deep within. Impressive, he returned, oblivious to the storm swirling beneath my surface. By the way, Ben and Talia are coming over after dinner. Hope that's okay? I forced my best smile, trying to suppress the slight annoyance of his spontaneous nature. Of course, that's great. But inside, I felt disoriented. My mind raced between the comfort of familiar company and the dizzying pull of a new reality with Elijah. Talia and Ben were always fun, but would they dull the hunger I now felt for something extraordinary? As we began to set the table, the doorbell echoed through the apartment. That must be them, Marcus exclaimed, opening the door before I could stop him, all exuberance and mischief. Surprise! Talia exclaimed, her vibrant laughter lighting up the room like sunshine breaking through storm clouds. She wore a deep teal wrap dress that clung to her curves, showcasing her inherent grace. Ben, ever the jester, sauntered in behind her. That looks delicious. Did you check under the hood? Maybe you're hiding a Michelin star? Just dinner, chef, I said with a mock salute. But if you'd like to rate it, I can send your resume to the Michelin people. The banter felt refreshing, a temporary balm that eased the strain. Between the lively conversations filled with laughter, I caught glimpses of my phone, knowing Elijah was waiting. Hey, are you all right? Talia asked, quieting down, her tone shifting as she noticed my distracted expression. You seem a bit off tonight. Are you sure everything's okay? Marcus hasn't given you the puppy dog eyes again, has he? Nah, it's nothing like that. Just planning my next big exhibit. I faked a smile. Oh, have you thought about any particular artists? Ben chimed in, blissfully unaware of the tempest within me. I seized the opportunity to talk art, diving into a discussion of painters who used color to evoke emotion. A welcome distraction from the ache in my heart. We soon found ourselves absorbed in discussions about avant-garde movements, and as the jests flew, I felt layers of tension peel away. But beneath the laughter, my phone buzzed once more, a heartbeat of urgency. Finally, I couldn't resist anymore. You know what? I'll be right back. I slipped into the kitchen, closing the door behind me, creating a small fortress away from the warmth of camaraderie. My fingers brushed against my phone, my heart racing like the city winding below. Elijah's message glowed on the screen. 10 minutes, can you sneak away? I glanced at the clock on the wall, ticking away the seconds with a precision that felt mocking. I could hear the muffled laughter from the living room, a beautiful melody of friendship, but my soul yearned for something different. With a swipe of my fingertip, I replied, "Be there." Just as I hit send, Marcus pushed through the door, tilting his head. Everything okay? I thought you fell in. I pulled a smile tight across my lips, just making sure the sauce is perfect. Good, because I'm starving. Come on, let's eat. As he led me back, my pulse thrummed in erratic patterns. I wished for a normal dinner, but my heart craved the electric energy only Elijah could ignite. Still, with every step, the fear of discovery snaked around me, coaxing anxiety to bloom. We sat down amid light-hearted banter, sharing stories and indulging in memories, but with each laugh, an undercurrent of longing bubbled within me. Every time I looked at Marcus, I saw the man who loved and cared for me, yet my gaze drifted away, caught in secrets that had begun to outweigh my promises. As I poured the rosé into our glasses, the wine glinted, catching Talia's eye. "This is stunning," she remarked, taking a generous sip. "So, what's next for the fabulous Shawnna?" Ben asked, a playful smirk on his face. "I'm still figuring it out, but big things are in the works," I replied, summoning my resolve to maintain my facade. "Better make sure we're invited to the opening," Talia teased, and the others nodded in agreement. "Of course," I shot back, feeling the pressure of my heart struggling against external expectations. But then I remembered that freedom often hides in stolen moments. With each passing second, the clock loomed larger over me, pressing down until I felt the weight of it all. As laughter filled the air, I felt a pulse from my phone, a reminder of the choices I had to make. "I'll be right back," I declared suddenly, not waiting for acknowledgement. I darted to the restroom, heart racing, the creatures of my desires battling for dominance. In the solitude, I wavered, the mirror reflecting an image of a woman at the crossroads of her life. Would I stay, playing the part of the dutiful partner? Or would I venture into the unknown with Elijah, allowing the tides of passion to pull me where they may? The phone buzzed again. "Where were you?" I took a deep breath, the weight of his words as tangible as the warmth of his touch. "Coming." As I stepped out, the laughter faded slightly into the background, but my heart thudded loud as I approached the door. Each sound felt magnified, like the world had expanded beyond the confines of this dinner party. Every step toward Elijah was a step toward authenticity, a leap into the unknown that sent thrills crackling down my spine. The choice was clear, even if laced with peril. "Shawnna," Marcus called just as I reached for the doorknob, his voice ringing with warmth, but shadowed with unintentional weight. I paused, turning slowly. "Yeah? Just checking on you, making sure you're all right. You've seemed a bit distracted tonight." I steeled myself, every word grazed with intention. "I'm fine, just needed a moment to collect my thoughts." And in that moment, I understood something profound. Sometimes the allure of waiting was not as intoxicating as the thrill of taking charge. "Good, dinner is waiting," he smiled. And as I faced the gentle reminder of the life I'd built, my heart surged, not with fear, but with determination. I was not simply the protagonist in a story. I was the architect of my dreams. As I opened the door wide, the world beyond pulsed with life, beckoning me onward toward a rendezvous filled with risk and abandon. Whatever lay ahead would test the very fabric of my choices. But I was ready to embrace it. After all, love was a dance I had yet to fully master. But with Elijah, I felt each beat pulling me closer to a melody that could set my spirit free. "Now, where were we?" I asked, stepping back into the animated discussion just as laughter filled the space, an echo of everything yet to come. And maybe, just maybe, I'd find a way to make it all work. Chapter 25. Risky Choices. The late afternoon sun poured through the towering windows of my office in the Fitzroy Gallery, casting an amber glow over the sleek wooden floor. The scent of damp paint mixed with the lingering aroma of fresh coffee, grounding me amidst the swirling chaos in my mind. I could hear the distant laughter of my colleagues, mingling with the soft strains of jazz from a nearby radio. Yet, trapped within my own gilded cage, I felt as though the walls were inching closer, suffocating me in refined yet stifling beauty. Drawing in a steadying breath, I stared blankly at the trio of canvases propped against the wall, each one a testament to freedom in its vibrant colors and wild strokes. How I longed to become that, boldly splashed across the canvas of life, free and uninhibited. My shift in feeling hit abruptly like a crashing wave on an unsuspecting shoreline. Elijah Carter had undeniably ignited something within me. He made me question what I had once considered immovable truth. "Shawnna, you all right? You look like you've just seen a ghost." My colleague Mia's voice drifted into the quiet, pulling me from my reverie. Her worry-laden brow contrasted starkly with her perpetual sunshine of a spirit, a touchstone in moments when the dark tended to seep in. "I'm fine, Mia." I forced a smile, though my stomach twisted at the thought of Elijah. I could imagine him somewhere out there, not just a figment of my imagination, but a real breathing entity, undeniably compelling and undeniably off-limits. A moment stretched between us, filled with unspoken truths. "Look, about the gala next week." "Ah, the gala," she interrupted, eyes sparkling with excitement. "This could be your big chance. You know who'll be attending, right?" "Yeah," I replied, weighing the potential of the event to change my life, change my perception of what it meant to risk something for the promise of something more. "But sometimes I wonder if it's all worth it. What's the point of it all, really?" "Don't tell me you're having an existential crisis on top of the career pressure," Mia teased lightly, breaking through the heaviness with her vibrant laughter. "You should let loose and enjoy your life, like with Elijah," she added, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. The mere mention of his name caused a sinister twist in my heart. "Elijah isn't the answer to my problems, Mia." I tried to sound firm, almost convincing, but the truth rattled in the back of my mind. He was a fire I longed to dance with. Mia shrugged, an age-old communication between friends. "Ever thought he might be part of the solution? I mean, life's about taking risks, right?" I couldn't deny that, yet the looming shadow of my suffocating marriage felt more like a prison than ever before. It was a reckless, one-time thing, but even as I said it, I felt a spark of rebellion surge. As if summoned by the universe, Elijah walked into the gallery, his presence cutting through the ambient noise like a knife. My heart raced, but I forced myself to breathe. He inclined his head at me, the hint of a smile on his lips, and suddenly the dust motes dancing in the light became a visual frenzy of hope and danger wrapped entirely into one alluring man. "Hey." His voice deepened, filling the room with electric energy. "Mind if I steal you away for a moment?" "Yes, please," I murmured, a rush of heat pooling in my core. As I slipped out of my office with him, I could feel the weight of Mia's inquisitive gaze following us, prodding at my conscience. We stepped into the back courtyard, a hidden gem adorned with ivy and wrought iron. Reminiscent of a Parisian escape, the sunlight filtered down through the leaves, making the air shimmer, yet the atmosphere crackled with unspoken words between us. "Shawnna," Elijah began, a hint of hesitation flickering over his features. "Are we doing this? Because I can't keep pretending I don't feel the way I do about you." I bit my lip, something between excitement and fear bubbling at the surface. "What about my life? My commitment? Elijah, it feels like I'm stepping into a storm when I'm around you." "A storm can be thrilling," he countered, stepping closer. The scent of his cologne, warm and intoxicating, wrapped around me, kindling the fire within. "But it could be destructive too," I protested, my heart pounding furiously against my ribcage. Each beat shouted that I craved his closeness, yet a nagging voice whispered the caution of consequences. Elijah's gaze bore into mine, raw and earnest. "I'd rather face the storm than watch you trapped inside that gilded cage. You deserve more than to be just the perfect wife." Silence fell. My breath caught as his words settled into my heart. I wanted to cry, laugh, all at once. What if I lose everything? My stability, my family? He stepped closer, cupping my face in his hand, grounding me. Sometimes losing everything is the price we pay for freedom. And just like that, with a flicker of resolve igniting within me, the barriers I'd erected began to crumble. I leaned into his warmth, and we were wrapped in an embrace fraught with intensity. Our lips locked, and any semblance of apprehension fell away. The kiss blossomed, pouring life into every fiber of my being. I was on fire, fueled by his desire just as much as my own. My fingers tangled in his hair, pulling him closer, deeper. The world around us melted, leaving only the flames of passion flickering higher and higher. But then, as if punctuated by dramatic irony, the shrill screech of a nearby phone broke the spell. I reluctantly pulled away, breathless. I should answer that, I murmured, my heart still racing. Elijah held my shoulders, searching my eyes for something unsaid, perhaps even for clarity that I did not possess. "Just tell me what you want, and I'll be right by your side," he said, his voice gravelly. "You have more power than you know." The phone rang insistently in my pocket, another intrusion into this fragile moment. With wobbly breaths, I turned my back on him momentarily to answer. "Hello? Shawnna?" The anxious voice belonged to Andrew, my husband, dampening the burning intensity left in the wake of Elijah's kiss. "We need to talk. It's important." "Now? Can't this wait?" The irritation flared within me. None of this felt important, compared to the rapture I had just experienced with Elijah. "No," Andrew asserted, a sharp edge apparent in his tone that sent a shiver down my spine. "There's something I need you to hear. Something urgent." The dread washed over me. "I'll be home soon, okay?" I managed to reply, forcing a steady tone. "Don't take too long." I hung up, half expecting Elijah to have stepped back and turned away. Instead, he stood in place, arms folded, jaw tight. "You want to take that conversation? Go home and put on your perfect wife persona." My heart sank at his words, and the uncertainty clawed back to the forefront of my mind. "It's not that simple," I protested, my voice barely registering above the rush of adrenaline. "Then what is it, Shawnna? Am I just your late-night fun while you keep pretending everything's okay?" His eyes darkened, hurt edging against jealousy. "Of course not," I shot back, frustration boiling over. "I know what I feel for you is real, but there's a lot I'm tethered to, Elijah, a life I've built that's not easily torn apart." "I'm not asking you to destroy your life," he replied coolly, while the darkness that swirled within him was palpable. "I'm asking you to live, to choose something for yourself for once." And with that, I felt the scales tip. The truth crashed around me, raw and inescapable. "What do you want from me, Elijah? What if I want to run, but I can't? What if running means I'd lose you too?" A pause stretched between us, thickening the air. "Running's not losing. Sometimes that's how we find what we truly want." I took a breath, wrestling with my own thoughts. "We can't just erase everything, Elijah. There are people counting on us, counting on me." He stepped closer, the heat radiating between us, igniting sensibilities anew. "Shawnna, what's it going to take for you to see this? It takes courage to chase what you truly want. But what if that courage leads us to the edge of a cliff?" My voice trembled with uncertainty. "Then we jump together." His words hung in the air, heavy with implication. And in that moment, the last traces of my fear dissolved, overcoming by the depth of longing and willingness to face whatever darkness might await us together. I leaned into him once more, our lips meeting amidst the throes of desperation and fervor, a promise wrapped in the passionate kiss that spoke of a future steeped in wild possibilities. And just as quickly, Elijah spun me around against the courtyard wall, deepening our connection, hypnotic and urgent. The heat of desire flared through every inch of me as I surrendered to the moment, risking it all for this fleeting taste of exhilaration. He pulled back just enough to press his forehead against mine. "So we can figure it out, Shawnna. Together." "Together," I echoed back, filled with a newfound resolve, even as the echo of Andrew's urgent words loomed large in the distance. As I stood there, trapped between two worlds, I couldn't ignore the tumultuous thrill racing through my veins. The shadows weren't dark anymore. They were simply waiting for me to choose my path. Let me take you away, Elijah murmured, his breath warm against my skin, and I felt myself teetering on the precipice of an exhilarating choice. With my heart pounding against the allure of Elijah, and the reminder that passion can transform even the darkest of moments into vibrant colors, I could only murmur, "Let's do it." Chapter 26. Chasing Shadows. The softness of the sun sliding through the kaleidoscope of glass in my gallery painted the walls in shades of sapphire and gold, a contrast to the churning tempest brewing within me. I stood amidst the vibrant canvases, tracing the edges of my latest exhibit with a tremor in my fingers, as if solid lines might ground me. The delicate scent of linseed oil lingered in the air, accompanied by the faint mustiness of the wooden floor beneath me. A sanctuary turned prison, like my own life recently felt. "Elijah," I whispered, my breath hitching at the thought of him. Elijah, so audacious and magnetic. He ignited a spark that threatened to consume me. I had been feeling lucky, until now. The gallery door swung open with a familiar creak, and he stepped inside, his presence crashing over me like a wave. The light seemed to bend around him, illuminating those deep brown eyes that reflected the chaos of the world I was wrestling within. "What's all this?" he asked, throwing his hands wide as if presenting a grand reveal, teasing me into a smile. "Art, genius, and a touch of madness," I replied, unable to hide the glimmer of joy that flickered in my chest. "But let me guess, if you're here, the madness does not include me." He stepped closer, casting aside my words like discarded brushstrokes, his own gaze sharpening as it settled on me. "I'm always here for the madness, especially when it comes to you. Are you feeling all right?" The depth of his concern was a velvet rope around my heart, pulling me closer, even as another voice inside screamed to retreat. "Just unexpected winds of change." His eyes darkened, and he leaned in, voice low. "Change? You know you can tell me anything, right? I don't bite, unless you want me to." There was a playful lilt in his tone, but the gravity beneath it urged me to indulge in transparency, something I was learning to unearth within myself. "Do you ever feel trapped?" I asked, my voice trembling. "Like you're balancing on the edge of something you can't escape, no matter how far you leap?" He paused, the teasing glimmer fading momentarily. "More than you know, Shawnna, but you don't have to feel caged. You have a choice, always." Before I could see the full depth of his understanding, the ringing of my phone shattered the moment, and my heart raced, not from excitement, but from dread. My husband's name blinked on the screen, that gilded cage slamming shut again. "Shawnna," Elijah exclaimed, frustration weaving into the syllables as I stared, paralyzed. "You're not going to answer that, are you?" I hesitated. "No," he interrupted, moving closer, the heat of his body radiating like wildfire. "Whatever it is, it can wait." "You don't understand," I started, but he cut me off, grabbing my wrist gently but firmly. "I know enough. I know if you answer it, he'll suck you back into that life." What erupted within me was a wild dance of fear and turmoil, twisting my emotions into knots. "He's not this monster you think he is," I snapped back, flaring with indignation. "Not a monster? He's the one who doesn't see you, the one who needs your life to be perfect so he can win over the world." Elijah's voice rose, frustration boiling. "You've been fighting, but what about fighting for you?" His words struck deep. "And what about you, Elijah? You're hiding behind layers of charm while struggling to stand on your own." Silence followed, thickening with tension so that I could barely breathe. The weight of unspoken words lay heavy in the air between us, the distance a chasm I had watched grow far too wide. His expression softened, revealing the vulnerability beneath his bravado. And there it was, the raw honesty burning through the air. "I am taking risks for you, Shawnna, but you can't let your fear tie you down. I promise, every secret is a step you take back." I faced him, and for a heartbeat, I wanted to reach out, but the familiar pang of uncertainty held me prisoner. But what if Enough with the what-ifs, he interrupted, inching closer as he captured my chin, his thumb brushing gently against my jaw. Why are you letting him win? Why aren't you just letting yourself live? Maybe because that scares me, I exploded, the air charged with ferocity. Loving you, the thrill of it, what if it all comes crashing down? Then let it crash. Let's burn the perfect facade to the ground. He pressed closer. You and me. Are you willing to feel again? Is that a dare? I replied, a tremor of laughter escaping me, though the gravity of our situation lingered like a shadow. No, I'm being serious. I'm not going anywhere. If you're ready to claim a part of yourself, then you'll need to choose me. I'll be your ally. There was a spark of revival in his eyes, igniting something within me, a desperate yearning to embrace the dangerous thrill of his love, a siren's call entwined with uncertainty. The sudden rage coursing through me fell away like petals dropped in a storm. But you're past, Elijah. It's creeping in. I can feel it suffocating whatever thrill we hold. And I'll fight it, he declared, but if we're going to do this, we must do it together. You can't keep flinching back. Don't let fear dictate your life. Every word was laden with passion and urgency, igniting a fire as I tilted my chin just enough that our lips could almost brush. What do you suggest we do then? Let's push all the shadows into the light, he murmured, leaning in, our faces mere inches apart. Are you ready for the leap, Shawnna? Before I could fully process it, my phone rang again, cutting through our fragile moment like a knife. The screen blinked. Michael. Clenching my jaw, I turned away sheepishly. I can't ignore this. Answer it, he urged, the hurt lining his voice evident. But I'm done playing this game with you. With every nerve on fire, I took the call, feeling Elijah step back, the warmth of his body fading. Michael? Yes, Where are you? The voice on the other line dripped with authority and disregard, unnerving me with its calm but demanding tone. But I was done being governed by his commands. I seized the power within. I'm at the gallery. What the hell is Elijah doing there? His voice tightened, flashing danger under its smooth exterior. My heart raced, the stakes surging higher, as Elijah's face darkened in the background, steeliness enveloping him. It's none of your business, I insisted, unleashing a confidence I hadn't known I possessed before. Shawnna, he snapped, frustration boiling over. You're supposed to be home. Home? I laughed, the sound sharp. Home is where I feel trapped. I'm not playing by anyone's rules but my own, Michael. Not anymore. There was silence on the other end, the sudden emptiness crackling through the line. It was then that I felt Elijah's presence beside me again, steadiness in his posture as he stared into my eyes, urging me to continue. With that silent encouragement, I declared defiantly, You don't own me. I'm not your possession. Shawnna, his voice slicked back to that authoritative tone. You're making a mistake. No, I'm making a choice, I countered. Igniting courage, I shifted the wavering of my heart into certitude. And if it's a mistake, then let it be mine. But know this, I won't let anyone dim my light ever again. The connection crackled, then hung silent. I exhaled, shaking slightly before glancing up at Elijah, who was watching me as if I were the last drop of hope, the one thing he'd been waiting for. See, he breathed, surprise intertwining with satisfaction. That's the Shawnna I believe in. I needed that. Thank you, I murmured, the world before me suddenly vast and full of possibilities I dared to chase. Let's get out of here, he suggested, stepping back, his eyes glinting with playful mischief. Let's go to my place. I think we need to escape those shadows for a little while. The exhilaration pulsed beneath my skin as I nodded, the world narrowing to the two of us in that moment. Little else mattered. As we slipped out of the gallery, the hum of the city greeted us like an old friend, the atmosphere carrying whispers of adventure. What's the plan? I asked, laughter bubbling beneath the surface. First, let me grab something, he said, his swagger igniting again as his fingers entwined with mine. Then we'll take this all the way to the stars. Stars? I feigned a gasp. I see you've been reading poetry. He laughed easily, his voice a warm caress. Just a little. But mostly, I'm just enchanted by you. That's the only inspiration I need." With a knowing smile, the weight of my reality began to lift, opening a vibrant horizon filled with laughter and pure desire. The world ahead felt brimming with possibilities, shaking off the remnants of fear, as both shadows and lights danced around us. "Ready for a wild ride?" he teased, his gaze locking onto mine with an intensity that sent shivers down my spine. "Always," I replied, the thrill of the unexpected stirring my soul. Because maybe chasing shadows wasn't about running from the light. It was about finding the courage to embrace it. Chapter 27, A Glimmer of Hope. Elijah, do you ever think about what it would be like to just run away? To leave everything behind? My voice wavered slightly, caught somewhere between vulnerability and audacity as I sifted through the textured silk of my dress. The bold red was a stark contrast to the breakthrough gray of the walls in the dimly lit art gallery. He turned toward me, his eyes shimmering with that mischievous spark. But there was a seriousness to his expression that pulled at my core. "Run away? I thought that was my job description," he replied, half smirking, his hands shoved deep into the pockets of his tailored trousers. "But you? Leaving everything behind? Ain't that a little extreme?" "Is it?" I challenged, stepping closer, the scent of cedar wood lingering in the air wrapped around us, amplifying the tension. "Tell me, Elijah, what do you dream of when you close your eyes at night, when the demands of life fade away?" His shoulders tensed slightly, the moment stretching between us like an elastic band, fraught with the weight of unspoken feelings. I don't really think about that stuff," he replied, visibly wrestling with his thoughts. "It's dangerous to dream when you don't have a safety net." "Safety nets are for people who think they might fall," I argued. "What if we talked about dreamers instead?" Little did I know how dangerously close I was to the edge of discovery, the universe churning beneath us, waiting for a spark. "Fine then," he said, his voice lowering as he took a step forward. "What does Shawnna Baptiste dream of?" His gaze held mine, a playful challenge dancing in the dark depths of those stunning eyes. A shiver crept through me. "I dream of painting the world in colors that don't exist yet. Of curating art that pushes boundaries, pushing myself." I paused, taking a breath. "And maybe, just maybe, running through the streets of Paris, arms wide open, laughing like a fool." I couldn't help but smile at the audacity of my imaginations, visions hollowed out from the edges of my very being. "Sounds freeing," Elijah noted, the warmth of his breath raising the hairs along my arm. "Are you ready to let go of your gilded cage?" "Gilded cage. It sounds pretty, but it's hardly beautiful from where I stand." The vulnerability I projected felt like a fragile butterfly, easily crushed. The world around us faded into a gentle hum as the air thickened with our breath. With a step closer, Elijah brought the space between us to a tense magnetism. "You talk about freedom like it's as easy as a blink of an eye. You know it ain't like that." His voice was firm yet earnest, grounding my romanticized daydream into the stark reality that loomed ahead. "Let me worry about that." I leaned in. "What's your buried secret, Elijah? You talk a big game, but I know there's something more in you, a restlessness that is practically suffocating." He chuckled softly, the sound like a couple of stones skipping across a smooth lake. "You see a lot more than you let on, don't you?" Still, something hid behind those confident eyes. A battlefield of emotions simmered beneath the surface. "Sometimes it's about the things we don't say," I murmured, inching even closer until I could feel the warmth pulsing off him in soft waves. The intensity of the moment was almost overwhelming, and I needed to break the spell before my heart dashed too far off course. "Look." My finger traced the line of his arm, tentative, hungry for the connection we had barely begun to explore. "Be careful, Shawnna," he whispered in a low tone, as if his breath was a warning. But his eyes told another story. "This is dangerous territory." I swallowed my fear, letting the frenzy of the unknown hold me captive. "And maybe, just maybe, I'm ready to dive in head first." I felt my heart pounding against my ribs, resonating with a truth I couldn't ignore. Suddenly, a melodic laugh danced from the entrance. Our friend Maya bustled in, her presence a sprinkle of mischief and light that cut through our charged atmosphere. Don't tell me you two are actually having a conversation about dreams. Someone needs to tell you, the more you dream, the more you'll never get what you want. Elijah rolled his eyes playfully but smiled. Thanks for the pep talk, Maya. We were just getting to the punchline. He shifted his body slightly, redirecting attention with the ease of familiarity. Oh, let me guess, she continued, swinging her arm around mine like a playful tether. You were both going to jump into a hot air balloon and see the world from 12,000 feet? I don't mind heights, I replied coyly, the undercurrent of flirtation still buzzing under the surface. And to think I just came here for a good glass of wine. She raised her hands dramatically. What a letdown. Elijah chuckled, but I could see the flicker of unease in his expression. Maya had a talent for stating the obvious without a breath of care. And just like that, she diluted our moment. Speaking of wine, Elijah said, turning to Maya, can you get us more? Sure, she shot back, her eyes sparkling with mischief. But only if you promise to spill your secrets after I come back. We need some juicy gossip amongst friends, after all. I'll hold you to that, he replied with faux seriousness, a ghost of a smile lingering on his lips. Once Maya slipped away, leaving us in speculation, Elijah turned his attention toward me again, and the clench of tension returned. You know, she's right about one thing, he remarked, leaning his body slightly toward me. We should probably be careful about what we say. It's a dangerous game when you start opening up like this. Are you afraid of what I'll uncover, Elijah? I asked, my voice low and winding. I fear what you could do with the truth, he countered, the air thickening. And some truths are heavier than others. Like what you're really running from? My own heart quickened, suddenly aware that this wasn't merely social ambiance we were entwined in. What did he have buried beneath layers of charm and bravado? He hesitated, a fleeting shadow crossing his face. Maybe, but what do you want, Shawnna? What do you desire that lies beneath your gilded cage? Desire? I echoed, narrative energy charging through me. You want to hear about desire? It's like a hurricane sweeping through my mind, whispering about choices I've long ignored. I desire freedom. I want to dance without rules. I was launching into the depths of my truth without an anchor, raw and welcoming. But desire isn't just reckless abandon. It's a knowing, isn't it? Elijah studied me, and for a fleeting moment, vulnerability softened the sharp planes of his face. Knowing can be terrifying. Then why do we keep choosing to dwell in fear? I challenged, stepping in close enough to feel the warmth radiating off him. Why do we cage ourselves when we both crave to break free? His breath caught in his throat, the moment fragile yet electric. Because sometimes the unknown is scarier than the cage. And when it comes down to it, his hand reached for mine, fingers brushing against my own, igniting sensations that caught me completely off guard. What we want may very well destroy us, and I don't want to risk losing what's left of our timelines. I won't allow that to happen. My voice was resolute now, peering into his depths and challenging him to match the intensity of my resolve. In a single, fleeting second, he pulled me closer until our bodies almost melded together, creating an unbroken existence. You have no idea what I'm really asking of you. And you have no idea what I'm ready to give, I countered, breathlessly drawing closer. The atmosphere cracked with unsaid promises, and my heart raced at the precipice of what could be. Then, just as electricity crackled between us, the door swung open again with all the subtlety of a battering ram. Wine, Maya announced loudly, striding back into the room like a whirlwind. Who's ready for a toast? Because I sure am, and I brought snacks. Elijah let out a resigned laugh, stepping back to create space. You do know how to ruin a moment, don't you? They are my special talent, she quipped. But seriously, I need to break this heavy mood with some actual fun. SOS, save our spirits. Don't you dare save us from our dreams, I shot back. laughter warming the air again. I can live with that, Elijah said, the tension between us easing, but the spark still flickering as he leaned casually against the counter. But dreams can wait. What's more important is this wine, right? Well, let's hope they don't make me forget my own, Maya quipped, pouring glasses with unmistakable flair. She handed us our glasses, and we raised a toast. The clinking of crystal echoing in the cavernous space, suspended between muted dreams and the promise of what could be. As I gazed into Elijah's eyes over the rim of my glass, I felt the undulating current between our realities. Maybe this isn't how the story ends. Maybe we are meant to reclaim every glimmer of hope crushed beneath the weight of unspoken desires. But for now, there was laughter and the allure of the uncharted waiting just below the surface, dancing just out of reach, but dazzlingly close. And God, how I yearned to grasp it. Cheers to daydreamers, Maya exclaimed, unaware of the tremors her intrusion had undeniably stirred. Cheers, I murmured with a smile, playfully feigning lightheartedness, though within me a tempest rumbled, ready to unleash its chaotic glory. For in this moment, between the laughter and secret glances, I felt alive, electric, ready to plunge into the shadows, together, with Elijah at my side. Chapter 28, Plans and Deceptions. The sun hung low in the sky, bathing the kitchen in a warm, golden glow. I stood at the countertop, slicing ripe avocados, the rich green flesh glistening with ripe potential. It should have been a soothing experience, the kind that lightens the heart and fills the home with the promise of something good. But as I carved through the soft skin, the blade's pressure against the fruit echoed the tension coiling in my chest. Every cut felt like a declaration of my fractured resolve. I was an art curator, a woman who handled masterpieces with care, yet here I was, fumbling with the remnants of a life I no longer recognized. I glanced at my phone, a lifeline to Elijah looming just off screen. Memories of his laughter and warmth clashed with the mundane clinks of cutlery and the distant sound of my husband's footsteps approaching from the living room. The wicked thrill of what lay ahead sent my pulse racing and left me teetering on the edge of indecision. "Shawnna, are you in there?" My husband Marcus called from the adjoining living area, his tone bright yet weighted with expectation. "Just finishing up," I called back, putting on a tone crafted from sugar and ice. I wasn't ready for him to walk in. Another layer of complication wrapping around my plans to meet Elijah tonight at our secret spot by the riverbank, our small refuge against an encroaching reality. I could almost feel the heat of his gaze, hear his teasing laughter coaxing me into the unknown, urging me to claim the freedom I craved. The kitchen door swung open, revealing Marcus, adorned in a tailored suit that spoke of early evening meetings and polished facades. As the light caught the contours of his jaw, I felt a sense of nostalgia mixed with guilt. Beneath layers and covenants, he loved me fiercely. At least I thought he did. But love had grown complicated between us, addled with obligations larger than ourselves. "Are those for the guacamole?" Marcus walked over, his presence immediate and consuming as he leaned against the counter. The familiar scent of cedar and a hint of bergamot filled my nostrils, a fragrance that should have been calming, but only added to my mounting anxiety. "Yeah, I thought we might have a little." I hesitated, my voice trailing off as I caught the glimmer in his eyes. "Dinner together, just us." "Dinner sounds great," he replied, with something too close to enthusiasm, an enthusiasm rooted in obligations rather than genuine desire. I forced a smile, my heart pounding against the ribs that held it captive. As I prepared the avocados, Marcus leaned closer, his breath warm against my neck. "You've been awfully distracted lately, Shawnna. Work getting to you?" His voice dripped with a playful insinuation. He wouldn't tease if he suspected the truth, I reminded myself, trying to ward off the swirling tempest within me. "Just the usual, you know?" I attempted to keep my tone light, slicing my response only superficially. "Big shows coming up. Pressure." "Right, pressure." He didn't sound convinced. I risked a glance, catching his blue eyes narrowing slightly. focusing on me with a scrutiny that pressed against my skin. "Hey, can you pass me the lime?" I deflected, but underneath the surface I felt him. He reached over me, our bodies uncomfortably close, the distance collapsing into tension. "Sure, you planning something special for tomorrow?" he asked casually, yet the underlying note of vulnerability in the question enveloped us. Just a small gathering. Could I really call it a gathering with the speckled truth of my rendezvous with Elijah hanging in the air? No, I didn't need to lie, not yet. "I heard Greg's bakery will be there," he continued, his presence pressing against me like an anchor. "I know you really like their pastries." I felt my stomach twist. Greg, a name that had stuck between the lines of my life like a thorn. The indignation simmered just beneath the surface, my thoughts drifting toward Elijah, whose presence made every brush of our lips seem like the pulse of a wakening heart. "That's nice," I replied too casually. The heaviness of silence filled the room, a prelude I couldn't afford. Marcus straightened, a flash of something in his expression. "Maybe I can bring some home for you, as a surprise." "Just don't, okay?" I said more sharply than intended. The air shifted, my words like sudden bursts of wind, revealing hidden truths. "Okay," he repeated, taken aback. "What's going on with you? You can't keep shutting me out, Shawnna. I can feel it every time we—" "Marcus, please." My plea cut into the air like my knife had through the avocado skin. "Don't draw lines in the sand. I'm just tired." Tired. He took a step back, the seriousness of the moment settling between us like a specter. "Right." He crossed his arms, a wall slamming down with an audible thud, his earlier warmth dissipating into the cool air of the kitchen. "Well, maybe that's what happens when you fall out of love. It makes you tired." "Fall out of love? What are you even saying?" I could feel my heart hammering in my chest. A domestic crisis bloomed where I'd hoped for the promise of an evening filled with stolen moments. "This isn't about that." His gaze hardened, and I could feel the fabric of our reality tearing apart. "Then where are you going tomorrow? More art meetings? You hardly touched your exhibition last week." "None of this is fair." My voice trembled under the weight of my betrayal, the fight in me battling against the thrill of what awaited me with Elijah. "What's not fair is that you're out there gallivanting while I'm here wondering if I'm losing you," Marcus snapped back. "Gallivanting?" I repeated, incredulous. "I'm not gallivanting, Marcus. I'm trying to figure things out just like you are." "You think I like this? This tension?" "Well, you could have fooled me. It seems like you thrive in it." The muscles in his jaw tightened, and I could see the distance between us widen. "Stop making this about us," I cried, emotions bubbling over, an explosive cocktail of fear and frustration. "This isn't some kind of game. I met someone." Someone. His eyes widened slightly, a realization filtering through, darkening the room. "Is that who you are secretive for? Who have you thrown everything away for?" "It's not what you think." I stepped back, giving myself distance, only to crash into the countertop, a moment of empowerment swallowed by the chaotic energy swirling around us. "So who exactly is the someone who's made you throw all common sense into your perfect little world?" His tone grew sharper, his words dripping with accusation. "You don't even understand." The words spilled out, staining the air with urgency. "He embraces the parts of me that feel caged. I'm more than this construct, Marcus." "Then let me in." Marcus's voice rose, reverberating off the kitchen walls. "If I'm just some accessory in your life, what have we even been doing?" I swallowed hard, the weight of our voices filling the space with a tangible heaviness. "I don't want to lose what we had, but you push me away." His expression softened for a fraction of a second, and I saw glimmers of regret. "You want to go gallivanting off? Feel free." He hesitated, then continued. "You might not like what you find out there." I felt a surge of defiance, a flame rekindling within me. The shadows of my fears danced amid the flames of hope, ignited by thoughts of Elijah's warm laughter and ardent passion. "You might not like who I become then." In that moment of charged silence, Two worlds hung precariously in the balance before the doorbell rang, slicing through the intensity like a thunderclap. My heart leapt into my throat as I scrambled to regain my composure, each beat resonating with unsteady anticipation. "Here for the special surprise," I muttered under my breath, tearing my gaze away from Marcus long enough to force a smile. "Answer it," he snapped, frustration palpable. I hesitated, but before I could turn the handle, Marcus was already striding forward, irritation trailing in his wake. "I'll get it." My pulse raced as he opened the door, and in strode my dear friend Viola, smacking her gum with cheeky nonchalance. "Hey, am I interrupting or what?" she chirped, shuffling past Marcus with an air of confidence. She turned, her vibrant curls bouncing and filling the kitchen like the whirlwind of scandalous energy she was. "Didn't want to keep the two of you apart during your whole I want a divorce thing." I nearly choked on my breath. "Viola," I scolded, mortified. "This isn't the time." "Oh, please," like I'd let my favorite best friend sit around in her emotional bakery without a little nail polish. She grinned, bringing in the scent of springtime flowers, sweetness that contrasted sharply with the tension woven into the air. "Well, looks like someone is definitely surviving without their emotional bakery," Marcus muttered, throwing me a pointed glare before retreating to the living room like a wounded animal seeking refuge. "Nice to see you too, Marcus," Viola chirped, unfazed by his attitude. "Now, come on, we have stuff to do." I looked at her, desperately trying to rein in my tumultuous emotions. "Viola, Nope." She threw her hands up. "We'll talk later. Date night is happening right now. Get your shoes on, girl. We're going out." Just like that, she grabbed my wrist and tugged me playfully toward the door. The tension in the kitchen melted away, if only for a moment, leaving the door open behind us for what loomed ahead. I cast one last look over my shoulder, barely able to meet Marcus's eyes, knowing the battle was not yet lost or won. As the door swung shut behind me, an exhilarating breath of freedom rushed in. "Where to?" I asked, excitement prickling through me. "I know this great place for drinks," Viola winked mischievously. "And maybe, just maybe, I can introduce you to someone who isn't Marcus." Her laughter filled the air, light and breezy, releasing me from my bindings. Maybe tonight, in the thrill of the unknown, I would claim myself again. Maybe the shadows of deception would transform into patterns of liberation, helping me untangle the threads of my past and weave them into a new, vibrant fabric of existence. "Let's go." The world pulsed with fresh energy, bold and ready for exploration, and for once I felt a glimmer of hope dance at the edge of my consciousness. "Just one more thing," Viola said, stopping me in my tracks. "You would tell me if you were to throw someone a surprise, right?" I turned, both heart racing and trepidation brimming within. I could only muster a grin, an echo of the chaos bubbling beneath. "Not if it's going to create more of it." "Good enough," she laughed and pulled me along. The night awaited, and so did Elijah. Chapter 29, The Reckoning. The sun hung low in the sky, threading warm golden rays through the sprawling canopies of the trees outside my apartment's balcony, each beam glimmering like an unearned medal I didn't want to wear. The air was thicker than usual, suffused with the mingling aromas of fresh paint and distant barbecues wafting up from the street below. My heart raced, each pulse a reminder of the constricted space I found myself in. Like I was trapped within a piece of my own curated artwork. I was both the observer and the art, yet utterly unable to escape the frame. Elijah leaned against the kitchen island, arms crossed, his deep chocolate skin glistening under the fluorescent light, casting shadows that danced across his chiseled features. "Shawnna," he began, voice steady, yet charged with frustration. "We're not just going to pretend everything is fine after—" "After what?" I interrupted, my voice sharper than I intended. Was that how I had come to speak, always on the defensive? Because if you're going to lecture me about being honest, let's talk about the secrets you've been keeping. My eyes narrowed, daring him to respond. The air crackled, pregnant with tension. I took a step forward, hands planted on the counter, pushing my body closer to his, wanting to feel the heat radiating off him that used to bring me safety, but now incited a firestorm. The way he gritted his jaw told me more than words ever could. Beneath that calm facade, I felt a storm brewing. Elijah uncrossed his arms, leaning toward me, the heat of our exchanges flowing between us like molten steel. I'm not the one who came to the auction with a painted smile on my face and a husband waiting at home. You're living in this gilded cage you built yourself, and I can't break you out if you won't even try. They don't know him like I do, I snapped back, clenching my fists. All they see is the perfect couple, the art world's darlings. Heaven forbid I shatter that image just because I had a few moments of reckless abandon with someone who gets me. My voice wavered slightly on that last phrase, exposing too much. Someone who could ruin everything. Elijah's tone was a low growl, fierce and unyielding. You think he cares about you? It's all one giant game to him, and you're just a winning piece. And you think I don't know what I'm doing? I shot back, my anger a shield against my spiraling insecurities. Every time I see him, it confirms that I'm at a point of no return. Ivan is a controlled chaos, while you... I stepped back, my breath hitching as I tried to center myself. You're just chaos. I'm chaos? His brows furrowed, and part of me admired how he wouldn't back down. Look who's throwing herself into a lavish art auction after all this time. What did you think would happen when you invited him? I could feel the fray of my emotional strings snap, the defiance in me roaring to life, ignited by years of whispers that claimed I was too delicate for wild things. I invited him because I wanted to feel something, and he brings me that. You think I'm just going to let you leave? That I'll give up this chance to live? You don't own me? Yet you cling to your husband like a life raft, he replied, his gaze piercing through me. Whenever the waves crash, you're right back there. Shut up! I slammed my palm against the polished wood, a loud crash that filled the charged silence. You know what? I'm done pretending to be something I'm not. I can't be your ideal woman, wrapped in your version of what an art curator should be. I inhaled deeply, half choking on my own disappointment. I can't face losing everything while the world watches. Then lose the world, he shouted, the silence left in his wake vibrating with tension. Shawnna, it's not about everyone else. It's about you. With those words hung in the air, I realized that he was right. And yet, I was still caught in the undertows of fear. What if I did lose everything? My cushy life, my marriage, my facade, only to embrace a reckless future that could lead me to no man, no security. Do you really think I like being chained? That this life I've built doesn't suffocate me? I gestured with desperation toward the window, where the world continued its banal spin, the laughter of children echoing from the park beyond. I wanted to feel alive, Elijah, to break out of this cycle. But if you can't understand that, then I faltered, my voice softening. Then I'm not sure what this is. I see you, Shawnna. All the colors you try to suppress, he said, stepping closer. The heat of his breath was like a balm to my wounds, his anger giving way to a raw, protective, fierce longing. I felt the walls close around us, space constricting, the air so taut it hurt. What do you want me to do? I whispered, tearing up, the resentment crumbling as hesitation danced on my tongue. What if I said I want... Elijah, you need to leave her alone. A voice pierced through, breaking us from our fragile bubble. It was Maya, my best friend, arms akimbo and her face flushed. This is madness. You're both at risk. Risk of what, Maya? I shot back, feeling the swell of disappointment with every word. Living? She ignored me, addressing Elijah, who had stiffened at the intrusion. She's not some pawn for your games or a trophy to be won. She's our friend, our art goddess. Elijah isn't playing games, I interjected fervently, my heart racing at the words. This isn't a game to me. Then why play with fire? Maya retorted. Why teeter on the brink of disaster just for a thrill? Because you want to feel something? What about reality? Elijah moved closer again, his voice a calm storm. Maya, just let it breathe. She needs to choose what matters most, and I'm part of that challenge. Challenge? Maya scoffed, casting an incredulous glance between us. This is a death spiral. Your husband is dangerous, Shawnna. You have to see that. And I'm done hiding, I shouted, feeling my voice rise above the fray. If you think I can sit in that perfect life and watch the world pass me by like a gallery painting, you're wrong. With every declaration, I felt the pieces of my fractured self clicking back together, my breath coming easier amidst the maelstrom. Elijah took a calculated step back, eyes narrowing, as if he were trying to discern my true intentions beneath the layers of rage. So what's it going to be, Shawnna? His words washed over me like Brussels sprouts in a five-star restaurant, luxurious yet distinctly hard to digest. But I was tired of pushing back. I don't know, I shouted suddenly, emotion spilling forth like an unbridled river. What do I do? Do I choose chaos or captivity, Elijah? Is that really how it's going to be? He nodded slowly, his gaze firm. Maybe it's time to find out. Our words started to blend with electrifying fervor, and suddenly it was like we were locked in a game, a dance of fate, a dance I never wanted to learn but found myself caught in. That's when the door opened, and Ivan, my husband, stepped in, all sunshine and calm. Shawnna, what's going on? His smile faded into pure confusion at the electric atmosphere. Even through my haze of uncertainty, I felt that familiar seed of resentment sprout, its roots reaching toward the conflict smoldering in the air. Nothing, I said defiantly, even as my heart thudded in my chest. We're just what? He stepped further in, instinctively drawing the circle tighter. I don't want any arguments here. You're being ridiculous, Shawnna. Ridiculous? The word came out like an insult to wooden art. You call me ridiculous when I'm finally trying to say what I feel? For once, I want to let my voice be heard, not some low whisper in the background. Elijah cleared his throat, positioning himself beside me, emboldened. Or maybe you just want to play the part of the good little wife who lets her husband dictate her life. Ivan narrowed his gaze, the contrast between the mild-mannered art connoisseur and the darkness lurking below my husband's veneer, both fascinating and terrifying. Stay out of this, Elijah. This is between Shawnna and me. But it felt like a shoving match, and my heart raced, the tug-of-war between chaos and my comfortable cage collapsing into a fierce tugging at my core. Everything about you tries to shackle me, I said to Ivan, emotion pouring forth as I turned to face him. You think your power can keep me in line, but you're wrong. You don't know me, and you definitely don't know what I want. I want passion, adventure. Oh, here we go with the hobbies again. You want to paint your little world with people who don't care about you. That's it. You don't care about me, I countered, feeling the rage burst out, pushing back against his looming figure. I want to be free. Free? He sneered, anything but amused. You think being with this punk will get you there? Elijah scoffed. At least I respect her choices. Respect? Ivan laughed, a harshness to it, and the walls began to close in. This man respects no one. I think you both need to chill, Maya interjected, stepping between us. Shawnna deserves to figure her life out without feeling suffocated by your expectations. But it felt like a rubber band tightly pulled, a stretched-out, fracture-prone connection, ready to snap at any moment. I couldn't hold it in anymore. In that hushed second, a hot breath escaped my lips, like the pent-up emotion I was tired of concealing. You're right about me, Ivan. I'm hanging by a thread in this beautiful gallery you've built, but it's not my canvas. Ivan's face blanched, the laughter gone. This is about him? He motioned toward Elijah, indignant. This is where it all comes from? Suddenly, my heart felt raw, stripped bare beneath the low hum of unresolved struggles. Yes, I shouted, my passion igniting every syllable. You've never cared about my passion or dreams, only how they would reflect on you. I want to live. The weight of our discord hung heavy in the air, but there, a flicker of something bright ignited between Elijah and me, spilling over the anger, lighting the darkness. And maybe I need to test those boundaries. Maya, realizing our discussion was spiraling into the realm of utter chaos, simply looked at me with a mixture of support and fear. You can't have everything, Shawnna. There are ways to take back agency without risking it all. But this felt like the moment to shred the rulebook, to leap into the unknown. I'm tired of this, I said, turning to Elijah with newfound clarity. I'm done living someone else's dream. I want to keep chasing these flames, not extinguish them. And I'm here for that journey, he replied, unwavering, eyes blazing with purpose. And just as those last words reverberated in the charged space, Ivan stepped back, shock painted on his features. Is this really what you want? It sparked against my spirit, fueled my courage, and before I could answer, something primal surged between Elijah and me, a current that sparkled with delicious electricity, something that felt like the taste of freedom. He stepped forward, right into that electric moment, a protective heart ready to face the storm. Isn't it all about making choices? Elijah murmured, his voice a husky whisper as he moved closer. Yes, I breathed, the space collapsing between us as everything melted away, my fear, my doubts, leaving little but the overwhelming certainty. I reached out, intertwining my fingers with his, promising, even amidst the chaos swirling around us, to chase the thrill that lay waiting just beneath the surface. We choose, I said softly, feeling myself lean into him. The world faded, narrowed down to the heat coursing between our bodies like solar flares. The resolve broke all conventions. Light broke as we came together, energy converging, unraveling myself from the chains Ivan had constructed, a beautiful declaration of my unyielding spirit rising against the restraints of expectation. No more cages, no more waiting. As Elijah's lips collided with mine, it felt like igniting everything I had ever wanted, like flicking a switch from dimmed to brilliant. Heat flooded into every crack and cranny, tender yet fierce, a continuum of untamed resolve. We writhed, fierce and unyielding, breaking every rule as passion led us deeper into the realm of who we could be. Not just as lovers, but as individuals reclaiming everything we had lost. This was the moment I had waited for, the reckonings drawing me closer to life, love, and freedom. We kissed like the world would disband around us, the heat of our bodies claiming the air until it was no longer architecture, but a shield locking me into the rhythm of something unwavering. Love, radical and free. That's when I realized I wasn't just dancing with chaos, I was embracing it, reminding myself of this yearning I could never bury, and I wanted every bit of it. So I chose life in every vivid detail, a fierce dive into possibility, as everything else slipped away into the shadows. Chapter 30. Why did you think lying would make things easier, Shawnna? The words hung in the air like a bitter aftertaste, gripping the corners of my throat and squeezing, daring me to breathe. I stood at the kitchen island, the cool surface grounding me against the whirlwind of emotions swirling within. Elijah's presence loomed just beyond the threshold, electric and potent. Yet there was a chasm of misconceptions and hurt festering between us. I glanced at him, his eyes dark pools of hurt and hesitation as they met mine. He was a force I both craved and feared. I didn't think it was a lie, I replied, the tremor in my voice betraying me. I thought it was a protective shield, for both of us. I busied myself pouring a glass of water, my hands steadying against the rim while my heart raced. You have done the same, feeling the weight of those secrets. Are you kidding me? Elijah stepped forward, a mix of incredulity and fury flashing across his face. You think I'd stand here and pretend it's all fine? You're married to a man who could shred us both with a thought, and you want to play house like it's just another evening? His voice sliced through me, not with cruelty, but with an intensity that flickered through the static of my carefully curated life. I knew he was right. I was playing a game I no longer knew how to win, a dance in a gilded cage. Listen, I shot back, my defenses bracing for impact. I'm not here for a lecture. You don't understand what it means to navigate this world, how everything has to look perfect. Perfect? He interrupted, bitterness underlining that single syllable as he paced the small kitchen with an almost reckless grace, glancing down at the floor as if the tiles were responsible for all my deception. Everything you're doing is a lie, Shawnna. You're pretending, and I can't keep doing this if you keep lying to yourself. I jabbed my fingers into the countertop, trying to grasp the reality slipping through my fingers like grains of sand. And what do you want me to do? Leave everything I've built? Turn my back on a flawless future? Don't you dare call it flawless, Elijah exploded, the vein in his temple pulsing with barely contained frustration. What about what you want? What about your dreams? I thought you were ready to take a leap. Or is it just a fantasy? My breath caught, heat flushing my cheeks as I glanced away, my heart wrestling with every secret I'd buried in order to maintain my picture-perfect life. I opened my mouth, ready to argue, but the rush of vulnerability crashed over me, a feeling I hadn't acknowledged in far too long. Elijah. His name trembled on my lips, but he didn't look up, focused intently on the floor instead. You don't know what I'm fighting against. What aren't you telling me, Shawnna? He probed so softly, I nearly missed it, the tension in the air pulling tight. If you were standing in front of a mirror right now, what do you see? I turned, a rush of anger and sorrow boiling beneath the surface. Someone who's tired of pretending, tired of balancing my life with everyone else's expectations. I took a step closer, my fists clenching at my sides, the warmth radiating from his body beckoning me. Tired of feeling like I'm suffocating. Our gazes clashed, wells of unspoken truth swirling in the air between us, suffusing the space. Do you think I don't want to be more? To create and curate my own path? There was a heartbeat of silence, our faces mere inches apart. I didn't have to guess what he saw. Fear and determination, and something subtly, hypnotically alluring in the intensity of his scrutiny. I know you do, he said quietly, his voice rough like a gravel road. But until you speak your truth, we're dancing in shadows. I'm not your light, Shawnna. You have to find that yourself. As his words began to settle in my heart, the door flung open behind us with an enthusiastic bang. Sorry I'm late, called out my friend Rhea, oblivious to the storm raging just a breath away. She trudged in, arms laden with bags from a nearby market, the smell of fresh produce mixing with the tension. Holy moly, you two need to open a window. It's like standing in the middle of a soap opera. Elijah stepped back, the air between us momentarily fine. Perfect timing, he muttered, eyes flickering away from mine, masking an entire universe of emotion behind his usual charm. Rhea squeezed between us, a smile spreading across her face as she unloaded her finds. I brought artisanal cheese and wine. I thought we could salvage this boiling pot of angst into something a little more desirable. I held back a laugh, though the tension still prickled. You can't salvage what's already burned to the ground. Pfft, Rhea rolled her eyes, shoving a wedge of cheese into my palm. You're exactly right, but I can offer a delicious distraction. Cheese fixes everything. Elijah glanced at me, and despite our earlier confrontation, the corners of his mouth twitched upwards, a spark of something unyielding glimmering between us. I could feel the fragile remnants of our explosive exchange fading into something manageable, something worth salvaging. As Rhea poured us glasses of red wine and chattered about her newest client, hilariously eccentric yet awesomely talented, I took a deep breath, thankful for the interlude. When's the last time you guys had fun? Rhea said as she expertly maneuvered around us, opening a bottle with a finesse that belied her usual clumsiness. You can't keep squabbling forever. I'm not squabbling, I said, choosing the glass with the most frills of fruit floating within. We were just having a passionate discussion. More like a tango gone wrong, Elijah teased lightly, and for a moment the atmosphere shifted completely as the tension dissipated like steam on a brisk morning. The look he shot me, however, still held weight, a thick layer of unsaid things tethered in the edges of our shared laughter. You offer great advice, I turned to Rhea, clinking my glass against hers. But you might want to revise your definition of fun. Oh, come on. I know you guys love each other more than this, Rhea countered, while ever the optimist, so effortlessly bouncing between humor and earnestness. You're just stuck in traffic on the emotional freeway. And trust me, that's a road we all get caught in sometimes. I felt Elijah's eyes on me again. An encouraging heat. But it only sent chills through me. My heart raced, the emotional roller coaster taking another steep incline. See? You just need to break down some walls. Rhea swirled her wine, the rich hue catching the light. Now what do we open next? Some of that salmon? Or should we let your passion simmer down instead? Salmon sounds good, Elijah said coolly, a sly glance dancing across his face, while Rhea rounded the counter to grab the cooking supplies. Let's fire up the grill. I'll handle it. Remember last time? I didn't burn it. Sure, Rhea, I replied, avoiding the shock of my own laughter as she playfully tossed a dish rag at Elijah, who caught it deftly. As she orchestrated the surprisingly delicious feast, the vibrant colors and aromas began to fill every corner of the kitchen. I stole glances at Elijah, shivers of tension roaming free, both our hearts pulsing to the rhythm of shared space. Comforting, yet laden with the weight of unsaid things. After a few minutes, I felt brave enough to approach him again, carrying my glass, the wine offering an unexpected warmth. I'm sorry, I said quietly, the peace in me fighting to rise above the earlier chaos. For lying, and for not speaking my truth. I know I can do better. Just don't forget who you are when you're facing what's next, Elijah murmured, brushing his fingers against my arm. The contact lit a spark I could hardly contain, my breath hitching in response as I leaned in slightly closer. Speaking of facing things, I began to say, but Rhea's voice shot through the atmosphere, oblivious but somehow grounding. Did I tell you guys about the absurd cheese festival I went to last week? She shifted into storytelling mode, her fingers gesturing animatedly. I mean, who knew a mozzarella ball would bring someone to tears? I couldn't help it. I laughed, letting the warmth of camaraderie flow through me, even if faint. As the laughter echoed, I stole another glance at Elijah, where traces of passion lingered still. We danced precariously close to something that could shatter or ignite our worlds. And I had to know what he saw in the shadows behind those soft eyes. But for now, laughter buoyed our spirits, and somehow amid the madness, I dared to hope he would step into the light beside me. All right, fine. But if it all goes haywire, and we end up living in a van down by the river, Elijah quipped, lifting his glass with a flourish, I'm calling you out, Rhea. Nah, Rhea chirped playfully. We'll just put the van next to a gourmet cheese stand. And amidst the laughter and teasing, I felt a beautiful flicker of something deep. Love, like cheese, made everything better. If only I could find the courage to carve through the layers. I took a deep breath, my heart pounding in sync with the rhythm of conversation, feeling the embers of desire spark alive again. No matter what shadows lay ahead, I would face every truth, because in the end, I was done hiding. I was ready to choose. Your cheese festival sounds ridiculous, but, I nudged Elijah playfully, feeling a simmering tension in the air wrap around us once more. I think I might just risk a van by the river with you. It was just small talk, but it felt monumental, the first step out of chaos. And love, it turned out, was no easy journey, but it was indeed worth every mile. Fate had a funny way of drawing us back together, and I knew, no matter the stakes that lay ahead, I had the strength to embrace the chaos and to partner with me to brave it all. I glanced at the wine glasses resting on a near-empty table, hoping for a distraction. I'm just trying to be practical here, Elijah. Practical? He shot back, stepping closer, the scent of his spicy cologne enveloping me like a long-forgotten memory. Each word dripped with a mix of impatience and something deeper, an urgency that made my heart clench. You mean compliant. It's always about maintaining this perfect image you've created, isn't it? Excuse me, I didn't ask for this life. I stepped back, the art that hung above us like a silent witness. The vicious critiques of my stagnant marriage swirled in my mind, growing louder as each second passed. You think I chose this shiny facade, this gallery, these people? I inherited all of it. It's suffocating, Elijah. Silence bloomed between us, heavy and painful. I felt the heat radiating from Elijah's rigid posture, his frustration warring with the tenderness that simmered just beneath. Was there anything more complex than love wrapped in layers of turmoil? Then what are you doing? He finally asked, his tone softer now, yet laced with an undeniable edge of intensity. Why don't you break free? Because I am trying, I said, my voice dropping. The bustling art world faded as our eyes held, the weight of our tumultuous connection hanging between us like an unfinished painting. But with you, it feels different. You make me feel alive in ways I haven't dared to admit. There it was, my unguarded admission. The feelings settled between us, raw and pulsing. Elijah took a step closer, violating the invisible barrier that had grown between us in the wake of our conflict. With each passing moment, I could feel the tremors of something explosive welling up. And yet, here I am. His voice was low, intimate, caught in a web of chaos. Maybe I want the chaos. I laughed softly, the tension edging back into my voice. What's the point of this perfect life if I'm fighting my choices every day? If you're fighting to save me? You think I'm trying to save you? He raised an eyebrow, his expression shifting slightly. A sprinkle of humor danced in his dark irises, but the seriousness never faded. Perhaps you're the one holding on, Shawnna. What do you truly want? I hesitated, weighing my words amid the crowd surrounding us at the event. I want a life that feels like art, spontaneous, messy, and full of beauty. But I also want to feel grounded because... Because? He moved closer still, his shoulder brushing against mine, a gentle reminder of his presence and support. Because I'm terrified of losing everything. Defeat clawed at my heart, but beneath it was a flickering flame of resilience. My marriage, my career, and now you. It's like things are unraveling faster than I can stitch them back together. His expression softened, an understanding glimmering behind the frustration. What if you don't need to stitch them back together? What if you could create something new? As the silence draped over us like an embrace, I couldn't help but feel my heart race. The art of life was an ever-evolving canvas, and perhaps it was time to add bold strokes of my own. Before I could respond, a laughter echoed from the corner, where Kayla, my energetic friend and fellow curator, was engaging in a lively debate with Jordan, her partner. You have to admit that the ridiculous poses come from the artist's insecurities. Look at how he deflects attention with humor, she exclaimed, gesturing animatedly. Or maybe he's just got a knack for self-deprecation, Jordan countered, winding a hand through his thick curls. Either way, I think we could all take a page from his playbook. I chuckled softly at their banter. They always had a way of infusing comic relief into the chaos. It pulled me momentarily from the weight of my conversation, but Elijah remained locked on me, his eyes resolute. Want me to help? He asked suddenly, catching me off guard. Help with what? The create something new part, he said, a hint of mischief sparking in his gaze. Help you break free. How about we sneak out of here? My heart raced, half in surprise, half exhilaration at the prospect. Sneak out? Yes, just you and me. We'll do something reckless, something utterly chaotic. The devilish grin that spread across his face lit something inside me, igniting old yearnings I thought I had buried. And what if someone sees us? I raised an eyebrow. He leaned in, his breath warm against my ear, igniting goosebumps along my skin. Let them see. Fine. The thrill of adventure surged through my veins, chasing away the emotional fog. But if we do this, it has to be worth it. His eyes gleamed with mischief. Oh, you'll get more than your money's worth. With a brief conspiratorial look exchanged between us, Elijah grabbed my hand, leading me through the gallery's maze of art and voices, laughter trailing behind us. The splash of laughter and champagne-spilled drinks above our heads faded as we slipped out into the cool night air. As we stepped into the city's embrace, the world transformed around us, bright lights sparkling against the ink-blue sky. My heart raced with excitement. Here was an opportunity to rewrite my narrative. The exhilarating promise of spontaneity engulfed me. Every moment felt electric. "Where to now?" I asked playfully, testing the waters of our sudden escape. "Just trust me." He slid his hand to my back, guiding me forward, an unseen safety net amidst the chaos. I didn't need to ask where he was taking me. The raw energy between us was enough. We roamed through shadowy streets, the remnants of art and ambition accompanying us. Elijah's earlier frustration morphed into something deeper as we shared fleeting glances, laughter overflowing in bursts that felt almost preposterously out of place. "The best parts of life," he pondered aloud, "are the things that don't quite fit in." "That's an artist's perspective," I replied, returning his mischievous smile. "Maybe you should be the artist then. Imagine the beauty you could create if you stopped worrying about the chaos." His tone shifted, edged with sincerity. "It doesn't make you less, it makes you more." We wound through a vibrant patch of street art, colors exploding against the gray canvas of the city. A loud, vibrant mural depicting waves crashing against a beach made me stop in my tracks. My fingers itched to create, to mingle those rich colors and fervid emotions onto a fresh canvas. "This is beautiful," I whispered, tracing the contours of the artwork. "Just like you," Elijah replied, leaning closer so that I could feel the air from his words. His gaze softened, and suddenly the laughter faded. The intoxicating warmth filled the space where frustration had once simmered. "The world needs more of that beauty." "Do you really think so?" I asked, vulnerability creeping back in. "I know so." His voice was firm, unwavering. "You have the capacity to shape your own reality, Shawnna. You just need to let go of the need for control and trust the unknown." Before I could articulate a response, he drew me closer, his breath mingling with mine, the world narrowing down to this single moment. "Promised chaos, remember?" A grin broke free, and the night bloomed with 1,000 possibilities. "You should have led with that." With a wicked light in his eyes, he swept me along the sidewalk, steering us away from the city noises into a pocket of silence created by the towering trees lining the park entrance. Under the sprawling branches, the moonlight flickered between leaves, reminding me of the elusive beauty that was always just out of reach. "Now," he declared, stopping suddenly, a playful glimmer igniting his features, "I want to see you create. Right here, right now." "What, like a performance art piece in the park?" I questioned, laughter bubbling as I imagined the scene. "Exactly. Just drop all your fancy pretenses and art critiques. Show me who you really are." "I'm not sure wild is in my skill set," I teased, taking a step back. "Wild doesn't matter. Just be you." In that moment, something shifted, the tension released, and a spark ignited. The essence of spontaneity echoed within us, blurring the fight and the longing into a single pulse of joy that was intoxicating. "All right, may I?" I shot back playfully, ready to take the plunge. "Just try not to take any pictures." With exaggerated flair, I began to mimic the figures in the mural, my arms reaching wide as though I could encompass each color, each brushstroke. Laughter spilled from my lips as I danced for him, perfectly unrefined, the embodiment of freedom awakening in my every movement. Elijah clapped with glee, his laughter an affirmation. "That's my girl, unflinchingly beautiful, even a bit ridiculous." He took a few small steps closer, the air electrified. "Ridiculous seems to suit me," I said breathless, lighting with the sheer delight of releasing some of the burdens I had carried for too long. "Just don't stop," he encouraged, his gaze fixed on me, a mixture of love, admiration, and something deeper echoing back. When I stopped to catch my breath, Elijah stepped in. Your turn. With a swift motion, he spun me around, pulling me close, filling the space between us with smoldering intensity. Now you're the art, and it's my job to paint the scene. And with those words, he leaned in, capturing my lips with his, in a way that poured all the weight of everything unspoken into that singular kiss. As his hand wrapped around the nape of my neck with an intoxicating urgency, sudden heat blossomed across my chest, igniting every nerve ending known to humanity. When the kiss broke, I gasped for air, the world swirling anew in tones of passion and hunger. Oh wow, that was quite the art installation. Only just beginning. His playful smirk ignited sparks of flame in my heart. The rhythm of our breaths merged, echoing the pulse of distant city life beyond the trees. For a fleeting moment, all our worries melted away, like brushstrokes merging into one. Love, chaos, creativity, and intimacy intertwined into a single complex design that only we could understand. Just be, he murmured again, his voice dipping to a husky whisper. Let me show you the beauty of surrender. In a burst of desire, I pulled him back toward the shadowy pathways of the park. Laughter bubbling between us, mixing with something far more profound that waited just beneath the surface. Our fight from earlier faded like the waning shadows, allowing the spark of attraction to reignite unabashedly. And perhaps this moment was precisely what we both needed, a simultaneous reckoning with the chaos and wild beauty that wound around our hearts, tempting us to leap forward, adventure unclasped, and free. Let's go. I want to get lost in you. With eyes blazed with eager determination, Elijah grinned. Deal. Chapter 33. Escaping Together. It was one of those late summer afternoons where the air hung thick with the scent of impending rain, mingling with the bold aroma of jasmine that wound its way up the trellis by the back porch. I shifted my weight on the wooden slats, tapping my foot in rhythm with the distant drumming of thunder. Time had a way of stretching in moments like these, and my thoughts, usually tightly coiled, felt like they were unraveling into a wild tangle. Today I wore a deep green sundress that danced lightly around my knees, each sway echoing both freedom and confinement. The fabric fluttered against my skin, as joyful and yet as suffocating as the thought of what lay ahead. I wished for the rain to pour down, unleashing everything held back, quenching the drought that had buried itself deep within me. The ache for something, someone. The low chime of my phone disrupted my reverie, and I almost swiped it away. But then I saw the name, Elijah. A familiar warmth flooded over me, igniting the simmering tension nestled in my core. With a soft tap, I opened the message. I need to see you. Now. The urgency wrapped around me, a warm embrace that brushed aside the cowardice threatening to drown me. I hastily grabbed my bag, pausing my heartbeat as I stood. Could I do this? Could I surrender to him entirely, leaving the pristine fortress of my current life behind? The thought tightened my chest, but also thrilled me. With each step towards the door, the rain began to fall, gentle at first, a lover's whisper, soon intensifying, slapping against the world outside. I smiled at the delicious chaos. I'll be there, I texted back, feeling the promise fall from my fingertips like the rain. Driving to the rendezvous spot, the sleek black body of my car reflected the storm, a torrent of emotions pouring within me. I thought, absurdly, of how thunder seemed to echo my heartbeat, as if the world was engaged in a secret concert made just for me. The moment I arrived at the abandoned gallery, I felt a shiver of both elation and dread. It was wayward and chaotic, much like the feelings swirling inside me. As I stepped into the dimness of the space, I found Elijah waiting amidst the whispers of fading paint and dusty sunlight. His presence filled the air, steady and commanding, drawing me in. He stood tall, his eyes the kind of dark pools that could swallow secrets whole. "You came," he said, his voice husky as he took a step closer. Each word dripped with the unyielding gravity I craved. Of course I did. My heart raced, emboldened by the electricity sparking between us. "You said it was urgent." He smirked, leaning back slightly, as if sizing up the intricate tapestry of feelings woven between us. "Let's just say this is a bit more than a casual meetup." I raised an eyebrow playfully, looking into his intent gaze that flickered with mischief. "More than flirting and stolen kisses?" Elijah closed the distance, a hand brushing through the wisps of hair that had escaped the confines of my bun, his fingertips igniting sensations that flowed straight to my core. Much more. A thunderclap startled me, a powerful roll that reminded me of the stakes in this room, the unspoken dangers lurking just outside. I curled my fingers around his wrist defiantly. "What are we doing?" He hesitated for a heartbeat, the playful edge in his demeanor softening. "I've been thinking, Shawnna, about where we go from here." "I love this." He gestured between us, a wild and uncharted territory that left us breathless. But the room seemed to vanish. It was just us, our breath, our thoughts colliding with the raindrops dancing on the glass. I pressed onward, relentless. "But what? It can't just end after tonight. We both know it's deeper than that." "I want us to escape." His voice dropped to a hushed note, urgency tightening around each syllable. "Just for a little while. Let's leave everything behind." My heart thundered in response, a cacophony that rose over the rain. "Run away? Where? To anywhere?" "Just away. I have some contacts, places we can hide out for a few days. It'll give us time. Time to breathe." Exhaustion nipped at the edges of my ambition, my logical mind teetering. "You think I could just leave, Elijah? It's not that simple." "Why can't it be?" He leaned closer, his eyes pleading and fierce. "You're not living, Shawnna. You're surviving. Your entire life is a gilded cage, and I don't want to hold the key. I want to break the lock." The intensity of his words ignited something primal within me, a yearning deep and sweet. My resolve wavered as his hand cupped my cheek, grounding the electric mayhem around us. "What do you see when you look at me?" "You. All of you." His gaze latched onto mine, a weight that demanded traction, protection, liberty. "You're scrumptious." With a bark of laughter, I found humor in our intense moment. "Scrumptious? Is that your grand compliment?" His grin was infectious, spreading warmth through the brittle air. "It's not a compliment. It's a declaration of war. You're too delicious to let slip away again." The playfulness punctuated our tense moment, redirecting the barrage of emotions. But we both knew we were dancing on the edge of a precipice. "So we run away together?" I pressed, feeling reckless with possibility. "We take it one step at a time," he answered, moving even closer, his breath teasing my lips. "One step, one reckless decision at a time." Against every rational thought, I nodded, letting desire swirl like the rain behind us. Suddenly, he lunged forward, crashing our lips together, a feverish heat igniting between us. The storm outside roared in approval. It felt monumental, raw, the embodiment of 1,000 unspoken dreams breaking free. "Elijah," I breathed against him, sparking autonomy and chaos. The world outside blurred, and nothing else mattered. Forget the perfect marriage, forget the confinement of my curated life. Here, in the tapestry of chaos and desire, Elijah was my freedom, wild, raw, chaotic, and liberating. "Shawnna," he murmured. His lips trailed down my throat, alternating between sweet passion and fiery longing, till I heard myself gasp, lost in the rhythm of us. Each shiver rolled through me as his hands anchored my waist, pulling me against the solid warmth of him. This was more than just a kiss. This was a promise, a pact sealed with the weight of what we faced. As rain cascaded against the gallery, Each drop seeped into our skin, urging us onward, deeper into the tumult. I felt his hands travel under the hem of my dress, fingertips grazing against my skin, igniting every nerve in my body with electricity, provoking both pleasure and fire. "Here," he whispered, his breath hot as he cupped my breast, teasing and coaxing, making me respond with needy urgency. "This is so reckless," I gasped, surrendering to the storm that had begun brewing far beyond the window. "I wouldn't have it any other way." His lips captured me anew, and I melted into him, absorbing the heat between us as if we could consume the world together. Elijah's hands explored, every touch pulling me closer to the edge, every gasp melding into the chaos of thunder outside. This rush was everything I wanted, but had been too afraid to claim. I clung to him, the reckless abandon filling the space where fear used to lurk. "There's nothing sweeter than this," he murmured, the urgency clear in his eyes as he captured my gaze. "I choose you, Shawnna. In chaos and in silence, will you run?" My breath hitched as raindrops twisted like all the fervent feelings we explored amidst the firelight of passion and storms. "Yes, yes, I'll run with you," I declared, sealing the pact with a kiss, a promise of wild freedom. And just like that, with the world on the brink of the storm and our lives igniting the air between us, I surrendered completely, racing hand in hand into the uncharted destiny awaiting our hearts. Chapter 34. Catched in the Act. The afternoon sun licked through the tall, loamy trees in Central Park, casting dappled shadows over the manicured grass, as if it were trying to blot out the impending storm brewing on the horizon of my heart. I inhaled deeply, the scent of freshly mown grass and crisp autumn leaves swirling through my senses, teasing me with a sense of nostalgia, of freedom, of hidden dreams. Here I stood on the precipice, the world behind me a symmetry of privilege and obligation, while ahead loomed the chaotic unknown, vibrant with the possibility of risk and passion. Elijah paced beside me, his unease palpable. The way he combed his fingers through his hair, damp from the hint of perspiration lining his brow, showed me how close he was to unraveling. "So what's the plan?" he asked, his voice low, weaving its way through our secluded spot like an uninvited guest. "I say we go, just vanish." My words hung in the air, fragile yet pulsating with life. No second thoughts, no looking back. He met my gaze, his rich brown eyes a stormy sea. I could see the currents of doubt swirling beneath. "Just like that?" "What if?" I interrupted, frustration bubbling just beneath the surface. "What if we don't? What's left for us if we stay?" Elijah's expression crumpled momentarily, and for a split second, I saw the vulnerability hiding behind his playful facade, a crack in the armor he wore, as effortlessly as his t-shirt. "It's not that simple, Shawnna. You just don't want to leave your perfect life, do you? Your friends, your status?" I challenged, crossing my arms, feeling not unlike a cornered animal. He stepped closer, the space between us vanishing like smoke. "And you think I'm afraid of that?" "Yes, I do," I snapped, surprising even myself. The tension woven into our dialogue crackled like electricity. "You're comfortable wearing your mask, but that's not me. I don't want everything we're running from. I want something—" My words faltered. What did I really want? But before I could finish, Elijah reached out, fingers gently brushing my cheek, silencing my self-doubt. "You want to escape, right? Let's just hold on for a moment." His voice dropped a notch, each word meticulously chosen and weighted with an unspoken promise. And yet, as the weight of Elijah's gaze anchored me in place, I sensed a disturbance creeping toward us, the uninvited tension of impending confrontation lurking in the air. From behind the hedges, Hannah, my closest friend, emerged, her freckled face flushed with excitement, but also trepidation. "You two are up to something," she chirped, hands on her hips, swaying slightly with how much energy she contained. Elijah rolled his eyes dramatically, a smirk darting across his lips. No, Hannah, we're merely planning the rest of our lives. You know, casual stuff. She huffed, unimpressed by his sarcasm. I'm serious. You need to see things from outside your bubble. Have you thought this through? Every minute of every day, I shot back, irritation seeping into my tone. Okay, if it's all planned and all, maybe we should stop having these deep conversations in public, Hannah suggested, casting an uneasy glance around. My frustration morphed into laughter, the tension shifting into something more manageable. You're paranoid, Hannah. Who's going to come to the park to find us? It's pretty normal to meet friends here. Her lips pressed into a thin line, but the corner of her mouth twitched. Just look over there, she pointed, and my heart plummeted as I spun around. There, standing like a dark sentinel amid the vibrant autumn colors, was Marcus, my husband. What's he doing here? Elijah whispered, fierce urgency creeping into his tone. There was an unspoken message in his eyes. Stay close. Trust me. He said he had art clients in the area. I couldn't disguise the tremble in my voice. But that didn't mean... I thought... Thought what exactly? Hannah chimed in, casting a wary glance between all of us. Before I could respond, Marcus ambled closer, his presence like a storm cloud, obliterating the sunlight. Shawnna, Elijah. He was as casual as a fall breeze, but the undercurrent was palpable. What's going on here? Just catching up, I said, forcing a smile that felt more like a grimace. You know, I've got some things to discuss, Elijah interjected, stepping protectively slightly in front of me, becoming the wall against Marcus's piercing gaze. What's it to you, Marcus? This was new. I had never seen Elijah so tenacious. A moment of pride surged through me, followed by irritation at the tension building like jagged lines of thunder rumbling through the clear sky. You don't need to step in for me, I said quickly, brushing Elijah's arm. I felt the warmth of his protection, but beneath it lay a fresh wave of indecision. Marcus's expression darkened. I think it's time we discussed your attitude, Shawnna. You've been off lately. Off? The word dripped with disdain as I stepped forward, no longer wishing to hide behind Elijah. Or is it that you just haven't been paying attention? Really? You think your escapades with him are the answer? Marcus pointed to Elijah, disgust lacing his tone. Is that what this is? My heart raced as I took a breath, fire igniting in my veins. Is this about you, Marcus? Is it demanding your full attention, or your jealousy? Touchy subject for you? I could smell the expensive cologne mixed with the familiar scent of the life I wanted to escape. Your little fling isn't going to take away what you've built with me. Built? I retorted, holding my ground. Built a cage, more like. I refuse to live under the weight of your expectations. I swear I'm more than just your trophy. The words hung between us, bold and irrevocable, detonating the tension in a dazzling explosion of unvarnished truth. Maybe I should help you remember your place. This boy doesn't fit your perfect image, Marcus shot back, his voice an icy laceration that cut deep. Elijah's eyes hardened, and he leaned toward Marcus. You don't get to talk to her like that. She's not your property. She's a person, and she deserves more than the farce you call a marriage. Before any further elaboration could escape Elijah's lips, I felt both men tense, coiled like tightly wound springs. The silence that engulfed us was thick and teeming with unresolved emotions. Enough, all of you, I finally erupted. I refuse to be treated as a pawn in your games. You don't get to control my narrative any longer. My revelation echoed through the hushed park, its weight reverberating, constructing a path free from expectations and obligations. Elijah took a step back, a flicker of awe crossing his face before he glanced at Marcus with irritation. This isn't just about you or your feel-good contract, Shawnna. You deserve more, and you know that, he said, actively taking my side, weaving his narrative against Marcus's control. As Marcus fumed, I could feel the promise of liberation pulsing behind me. I want more for myself, and I think it's about time everyone recognizes what that means. Your decisions have consequences, Marcus cautioned. Though there was less anger in his voice now, far more fear than I had anticipated. Then let them come, I replied, light pouring into the darkness surrounding me like sunshine through clouds. But Elijah's eyes suddenly flared with desperation. Shawnna, we need to go, he urged, the weight of their confrontation weighing heavily on him. You're not to leave now, Marcus warned, his hands clenched at his sides. But I found myself stepping toward Elijah, drawn in not just by desire, but the intoxicating call of freedom. He's right. I need this chance. And just like that, we took off, leaving behind the remnants of constraints and half-hearted promises. Our feet echoed against the gravel path as we raced deeper into the park, each breath feeling lighter, as if we were leaving parts of ourselves behind in the dust. Where to now? Elijah panted as we ducked behind a clump of trees, growing breathless from the thrill of escape. You really do know how to make for a hasty retreat. Ever your knight in distressed jeans, I teased, injecting a semblance of levity into the panic. Well, I don't do well with angry husbands. Who knew? He replied, laughter threading through his breath. Another figure slid into my line of vision. Grace and Jorge, two of my other best friends, materializing in front of us, just as wide-eyed as we were. What just happened? Grace asked, hands on her hips, concern etched deep across her brow. We had a conversation, I said lightly, brushing off the tension, and got a little spirited. What brings you here? Jorge grinned, his trademark easy smile pulling me back into the moment. We were worried you might be abducted. When you didn't show up for lunch, we assumed Marcus put you in a headlock or something. I do not appreciate that portrayal. But yes, I'm between headlocks right now, I replied, leaning into Elijah's shoulder playfully as the adrenaline of our getaway dissolved into laughter. We thought we'd find you planning your escape, Grace quipped, observing the chemistry swirling in the air around us. So, are we talking serious or mere flirting? Flirting? I'm hoping to escape. The flirting just makes the whole thing more dramatic. Elijah chuckled, gathering me closer as if I were still a piece of cliff-hanging tension, fully enveloping me in the warmth of his presence, even as our world grew ever more chaotic. And as nightfall began draping its velvety cloak over the city, I felt deeper warmth coursing through me, an undeniable urge for adventure and passion ignited by the prospects of what awaited beyond the walls of our constructed lives. Let's get out of here, Elijah said, his voice a low hum. The night is young, and so are we. With that, we broke into a sprint, arms linked, hearts coursing in tandem to a rhythm of newfound freedom, laughter ringing out, light and wild against the tapestry of the dusky sky, wild like the love we dared to embrace amidst the chaos that threatened to ensnare us. Much like the world ahead, I couldn't quite anticipate what awaited us, yet in that moment, caught between conversations and confrontations, friendship and romance, danger and freedom, I leaned into the thrill, surrendering to the uncertain glow unfolding as I journeyed alongside Elijah. Just so we're clear, I murmured, glancing up at him as we took off into the deepening night. This isn't just about running away. No, it's about running towards something greater. Just trust me, he winked, his playful charm lingering like the promise of dawn. And just like that, my heart surged forward,